Oh yeah, in general, like actually, let me put myself back on. What's the quality of my like camera like for you guys? Is it quite fuzzy? Is it pretty good?
It's
I can
decent, but
see
it's
all.
not like
I can see each of your pores.
No, it's good, but it's not like full potential of the camera good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like in keeping with everyone else here. To be fair,
yeah. I feel like Rob's and Ben's is really good.
Oh,
Alex
excuse me.
and then kind of drops, and then Pat's is a consistent fuzzy quality.
That's just my shit beard.
Yeah, the only problem that I have is that your camera, Alex, sometimes it looks like you've got like a fan light on.
Yeah, I
Oh,
noticed that.
Yeah, I
yeah,
can see
it's
that.
got the flicker. It has
Yeah.
this weird flickering in the background, mainly on the wall.
Oh, I see that now. Like one of you're trying to record one of those old CRT TVs.
Yeah. The only
Lines.
reason
Well,
I
I guess no
noticed
one's
it,
unseeing that now.
the only reason I noticed it is because like part of my migraines is sometimes if it's really bright out, I just see that kind of thing everywhere. And it made me really paranoid that my TV was too bright once, and then I was like, no, that is just his camera.
Oh, shit. Okay, hang on. I don't know how to fix it.
No, I think it's just the camera, to be fair. I don't think you would.
Yeah, I remember how. Wait, I can't AirPlay y'all to the TV. Anyway, sorry. You can carry on with the call while I'm around.
Man, you're jumping to put your scores in.
Oh yeah.
It's scoring time.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is awesome. Wait, I'm gonna do a Inception. It's not really Inception moment, but
Wow, a score within a score. You mean?
I was trying to. I wondered if it could go within itself again and again and again.
Yeah.
It's kind of trippy
Oh,
seeing
man.
like two of
It's
your
the
hands.
I'm on TV scratching my nose.
Yeah, let me put in my scores.
Feel like
That-
I've become appropriately dressed tonight.
Oh, Oppenheimer. Yeah,
Nice.
it's Oppenheimer style.
Oh, oh, um, like me and Kimberly were talking earlier. It was just like near this film there were quite a few other space films that came out like not too far from each other, wasn't it? Like you had Gravity, and I can't remember when The Martian came out, and if there was something.
Martian was a few years after.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
around this time, but yeah, it wasn't the same year.
yeah. When did like
Another Matt Damon one.
Yeah, they're saving Matt Damon for a planet he doesn't want to be on.
That was a bit of a jump scare when he turned up in this. I was like, fucking hell, Matt Damon.
I'll be honest, I completely forgot that he was in it.
yeah,
I can
same.
see how you would, to be fair.
Because like I was sitting on the plane watching it, and I was like, "Hello, you all." He said, "Oh, Matt Damon." And the person across from me looked over.
Do you know what? I think that's partly why I managed to stay awake, because I was fucking knackered when I watched it, and I was like, I was laying on the sofa, and I was worried I was going to fall asleep, and then Matt Damon turned up, and I was like, whoa, what? am I already asleep?
He's an
or
astronaut
is
in
Matt
orange
Damon in this?
again.
But yeah, yeah, same. I also forgot he was in. I was like, oh yeah. Wait, I don't get a good feeling. Wait, he's gonna do something really bad. For most, it's just some things that were like blurry, and like it's as you're watching it, you start to remember more and more what's gonna happen. So it's just like I think by a third of the way through, I was just like, oh yeah, I know how all this plays out. Cool.
Matt Damon is a bastard.
Mm. It's interesting. It's interesting how I haven't seen that. Wait, I only watched it once, but I remember it pretty well, I think. But sorry, one last question. Actually, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, it's because I'm on the sheet as well. My phone's going crazy. It's not liking this.
I did have to put a movie for you.
Oh, actually, yeah. I forget about that. So impact. What's that? Let me start at enjoyment. Enjoyment 10. Impact. I think. To get it really hot, 9.5. And then everything else, 10.
Oops, accidentally put a 1. Dearie.
I was thinking, man, you did not like the story for this one. Obviously, we're going to hear why. But
Obviously.
do y'all know roughly like when Arrival and Gravity came out? I feel like
Oh,
Gravity.
I think
Gravity
Arrival
came.
was a couple of
Arrival-
years after.
Gravity was the
Arrival
year
was
before.
2018, wasn't it?
I think it was 2016.
Yeah, it was 2 years or so after. Interstellar was 2014.
Gravity was beforehand.
Gravity was 2023. Sorry, 2013. I'm going insane.
I was like,
It was
I
last
don't remember
year.
seeing it last year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
2013.
Arrival was 2016.
So they were, yeah, it's, yeah, not too far from each other. It was pretty cool. Like he just had a span of like quite a few big space films or films involving space or things from space or whatever. It was quite nice.
Do you know what? I really thought the Solaris remake was near this, but it was 2002 apparently.
Oh,
It was a bit naff.
what's
It
it?
was, yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of the original either, but the remake was a bit shit.
I'm surprised you've seen the original.
I watched it by mistake. I didn't know what I was watching at first, and then the credits rolled.
You didn't know what you was watching, and you got a Soviet sci-fi.
It's just a random night on Sky when I wasn't working.
Oh, what a night! Late December with Soviet sci-fi.
And on that, I forgot what song that was. But anyway, Pat, why did you pick this legendary film, epic film?
So previously picking 2 Nolan films, I said to myself I want to pick some of his other stuff as well, just as an excuse to watch it again. Like, but outside of Inception, and we just discount the Batman stuff, this was probably my favorite of his films. It's especially for like um, the last sort of fifth of the film where you need to sort of pay attention to what's going on. Like at first, the first viewing I wasn't too sure what was going on, but I quite liked the fact that it wasn't just a straight up ending. I suppose like the thing that I can't remember who shared it the other day about his films are meant to be experienced and not understood. I think that sort of epitomizes this film as well. But I loved the performances from everyone involved. It's quite a difficult one for me to sort of get words out for, because like it's I don't know. in short order, it good, but but like I loved the I did love the story for it. I know certain other people didn't.
Well,
Whether it's fair or not is another story.
I I resent the use of plural there. I really like the story. I just have issues with it.
No, I wasn't even talking about you,
Oh, who's the other person?
unless you want me to talk about you. I only meant one person. I said
Oh.
certain other people.
Yeah, that's that's a plural.
Well, I suppose one for each tit.
Uh,
I mean, like, honestly, like,
Hey, so
I was
Hey.
I was happy. Right, man. I was happy to just have you guys watch it, even if some of you have already watched it before. It's a film that I love. Personally, if you didn't like it, then that's on you. Like, I'd much prefer it if you did like it, because that'd be pretty cool. But if you didn't like it, it's no biggie.
I think I'm like quite comfortable in saying it's my favourite Christopher Nolan film so far. Like I think yeah, there was a lot about it that I really did like, and I think like the a lot of the issues that I had with it are issues that I tend to have with him, no matter what film of his it is I'm watching. Like it, I think the way that he writes dialogue is a little bit robotic, and it's I always get the feeling that he's kind of going like this is what you need to understand from this scene, so this is what this character's going to say, rather than this is what this character's going to say, because it's a well thought out character. And there's so many examples of that. I think like conceptually, I really like the story. I thought like the whole kind of, like, I know it's something that triggered Alec, but like the whole thing about like love going through like that whole thing of like seeing love as if it's something that can actually like be measured by science and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was really cool.
Hang on, say the whole thing. Say the
No, I'm
whole
not saying the
thing.
whole thing. I'm not saying it.
Love can transcend space and time.
I like the idea, all
I
right?
suppose it could.
I know. I know you.
there's nothing that can dispute that fact.
No,
There's lots
I
of
think
things actually. It's called science.
there were so many things in it where I was going like this has a really nice heart. Like I really like where it's coming from, and yeah, the whole thing about like him sort of, well, his daughter out aging him and like all of that kind of stuff. I thought it was all a really good basis for a story, and on that level, I thought it was great. I think I would have preferred it if maybe somebody else wrote it. Because of those things that I was saying about like the way that Christopher Nolan writes dialogue, and there's there were so many bits because of that that like they weren't supposed to be funny, but I found them quite funny. One bit was when Michael Caine was like, Lazarus came back from the dead. Like it's delivered like it's coming from like Airplane or something. But yeah, I don't know, like, and I think also as well, it's the thing that everyone seems to talk about with this is the whole thing about how there was a scientist consulted, and how all of the science is like watertight because of this consultation with a scientist. But I kind of I don't know how much Christopher Nolan listened to. Like I'm sure the science is watertight. I'm just not sure that their reactions to the science are like it's.
Well, I was reading more into it.
I'm not.
No, Nolan didn't actually want to take the advice from him at first.
That doesn't surprise me.
So what I was reading was like the studio brought in this science guy who ended up winning a Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, Kip Thorne. Just
Yeah, and he had all these ideas, but Nolan wanted to go a different way, and I think everyone sort of come together and was like, I don't think this is going to work if you go this way. You should go that way. So ended up getting more input from Gip than intended at first.
Funnily enough, that was like one of the things where I was going like, I'm not sure you listen to this guy, because it was the thing of like going one way rather than the other. It's like you've got all. I don't. Well, it's something that Alex's going to bring up anyway. But like, yeah, there's a lot of moments where I'm kind of going like, yeah, I'm sure the science behind this makes sense, but you as somebody who understands this shouldn't be acting in this way. Like it's. And yeah, just things like that. It detracts from it for me. It doesn't break it completely. Like I still think it's like a very enjoyable film. But yeah, I wish somebody else wrote it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's probably the biggest weakness that Nolan has is his writing isn't as on point. Like,
He's a better director than he is a writer.
yeah, I'd definitely agree with that. Like, he didn't write the Dark Knight adaptations, did he?
Can I just say that isn't just Nolan who wrote this? It's Jonathan Nolan, his brother, who
Yeah.
Oh, he
who
also did
the Dark Knight trilogy and Westworld.
yeah.
Yeah.
He also did the first film that Christopher Nolan did, didn't he? The TV film, Following, is it?
The following,
I've never watched that one.
No,
Can't
I
find
haven't
it.
yeah,
seen
a
it.
bit of input in Memento as well. But yeah, Jonathan Nolan's been kind of like integral to his early years.
Mm.
Wait till I pick Memento.
Oh man. I'll say, we're doing opening statements.
Yeah, go ahead, Mel.
Well, actually, Simon, how long are you on this call for? Are you going to be able to be on the whole thing?
I mean, I would try, but I have to get up early in like, what's the time now? It's 11. So I have to get up in 4 hours, technically speaking.
Right.
Simon,
Hey.
get some sleep. Fuck this. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say my piece. Then afterwards, I'll probably fall asleep while listening to the call.
Don't be tired too much.
I remember watching this film like a while back. Like, when did this film first come out?
10 years ago now.
10 years exactly.
Okay, yeah, I feel like I watched it like 5 or 6 years ago. That's probably when I first watched it. I was like, oh, it's quite interesting. I couldn't quite remember everything about this movie except for the robots and how the robots are some of the best quote unquote people that I've ever seen in sci-fi. I'm like, these robots aren't gonna betray everyone and kill everyone. I was so expecting the one robot to betray, like, to be in with Matt Damon and kill everyone. I was like, oh no, it's gonna be an arsehole robot where everyone else is like a goody robot. I was like, oh no, it's actually just everyone's a good person. Every robot is a great robot in this film. I was like, oh, that's cool. I watching it again now, I understand the complaints about the sciencey parts. As much as the story is lovely, and I think it's quite sweet, love transcends space and time is a bit Doctor Who-ish.
Oh, I like it.
I mean, like,
That's a nice bit. Don't have a go.
I mean,
That's a good thing.
well, no. It's
That's some great stuff.
how to explain it, because it's supposed to be more like realistic sci-fi and not sci-fi magic. Because I think we've had this conversation lots of times. If it's sci-fi magic, then afterwards it's going to be things like, yeah, but then afterwards there's like giant robots and like space stations. Oh, actually, wait, never mind. There was space stations by the end, technically. but like it's gonna be every time there's time travel in a story, and it's supposed to be scientific, it's gonna be a bit like blurred. It's kind of like, even when we had the better version of this, as Rob's pick of Arrival, where it had a time loop, that made a little bit more sense, because it's kind of like, yeah, but they're aliens and you don't know how aliens like communicate, and it's like, yeah, sure, but this is people, and people aren't like this. We know that people suck, and I don't think people could ever make the weird like Tesseract space tube thing that he was in. And I'm just like, I don't know about that. It's kind of like, I don't trust people to be good people. And it's like, and it's like, oh yeah, but I sent all that information in Morse code back to my daughter so that people can do better. And I'm like, Will they though? I mean, like, and it's like it's a lot of those films. Well, I feel like when I first watched it, I was like, oh yeah, it's very hopeful. Nowadays, it's not so much because well, people suck. Robots great, people suck.
That was another line that accidentally made me laugh. Actually, you just reminded me of is when Murph's like, oh yeah, I'm trying out Morse code, and then Coop's like, Morse code, and she goes, yeah, it's a series of dots and dashes.
Wait, who said that?
Oh no,
Which
we're not there yet.
Which character? We're not there yet. Was it Murph? Was it the lovely Murph?
Murph!
Hey Murph, what's going on, Murph? Murph, you look lovely today. Who's that, Murph? It's Murph.
Who's that Coop? Not Murph. Oh, dear.
I just realized the kid's called Coop Cooper.
Yeah.
Wait, what did you realize?
I just realized that Jess's second kid is called Coop Cooper.
Oh.
Why did they name him Coop? It was just like,
You're right.
second
It should
one,
be.
not
See,
the
it's
It
just,
should be Murph.
just bloody weird
Oh.
characters. They don't make
I'm going to take a point
logical
off for that. That's
decisions.
weird.
Murph.
it matches the character. It's just funny that the young Timothy Chalamet grows up to be that guy.
It becomes Casey Affleck, yeah.
Yeah, that was another jump scare actually. It's like now watching it 10 years later, it's like Timothy Chalamet didn't grow up to look like that.
Oh, stop. Did you say the kid was Timothy Chalamet?
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
didn't you know?
Is it?
Fucking
Oh, shit.
God.
Oh,
Timmy
fuck. You know, it's weird because like watching the film, I saw no, I thought like, oh wait, is that Ben Affleck? I was like, oh wait, no, that's not Ben. That's the brother. I was like, oh yeah, that's very. They've got the same sort of like face shape with the beard. I did not know for a fact that kid was Timothy Chalamet. I'm like, every time this happens with like a young actor, I always get like really surprised. It happened with with the new Willy Wonka and the Charlie Chocolate Charlie Factory, right? And I was like, oh yeah, that kid grows up into him. I was like, oh yeah, for like the doctor guy. I was like, oh shit, I didn't expect Timothy Chalamet to be there. I was like, oh, I wonder if we're gonna see who is Murph's actress to be, if she's in anything interesting, because I don't know if it's for kid actors. I think this is I'll just make my point now. I didn't think the kids acting were that great, even if when she's being emotional with Matthew McConaughey. I think I dropped a few points from that because everyone else they were quite interesting to watch, but like the kids were just like, I know the kids and like they're kind of bad at acting, but like they're kind of really bad at acting. I don't know if that's just me, and it's just like I was like I couldn't get into the point of like they don't really feel like a parent and a kid. It just feels like just people just in the house, and it's just like it doesn't feel like real. But maybe it's just me.
Yeah, it's a bit like well, I think one of the so one of the things that I was a bit like not overly enamored by was the scene where Coop is talking to Murph about leaving, and
Who?
Are we gonna have to deal with this the whole call?
I have to hear it 81 times in one film. I don't know.
And
You
you
know,
chose
that-
twice.
that
Ooh,
bit, I think,
yeah.
like it felt to me like it was sort of riffing off of Close Encounters a little bit, but I think the reason, like the whole thing about like the father leaving the family and all of that, I think the reason it works in Close Encounters, but it felt a bit weird for me in this, is because it's like quite over explained in this. So it's like, so Coop says that line about. So I am coming back to what you said, Simon, but Coop says that line about when you, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's like when you're a parent, you become a ghost, and I'm not ready to be a ghost yet. I need to exist, or something like that. And I was kind of going like, that's a bit of a, like, it's quite a strong thing to say to a 10-year-old, no matter how intelligent that 10-year-old is. And
Mm.
I think that that's kind of where it becomes difficult for a 10-year-old actor as well, because it's like, how do you process and respond to something like that? Like, it's there was a few things like that where I was like, I don't understand what his character is supposed to be, because he says all these things about himself as a character, but then the way that he treats the people around him is like, it's not very it's not very consistent, I suppose. Like, it's just, yeah, it left me feeling a bit weird about him in general. Because you know that bit when they're up in space and he's like, "Oh yeah, the reason I didn't tell her that the world was ending because it was because I wanted her to feel safe." And it's like, well, you just told her that you were going to come back younger than her. Like, it's like, no,
Yeah.
nothing that you did in that scene was to make her feel safe. Like, it didn't. If it was, then you were quite bad at it. Like, it was.
That just shows like his flawed nature, like the flawed aspects of him. His heart's in the right place, but one of the only things he's good at is being an engineer and a pilot. And he even before that scene, he mentions how, like, if the mom was still around, she would be much better at this. That she's much more calmer one. He kind of like hints at how he's not. He doesn't think he's good at parenting. There's multiple points where like it's kind of pointed out he's not great at this, and he could be much better, but he's not, and that's the flawed part of him. But his heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
I think that's what I was questioning though. Like, I don't know if it came across to me as his heart was in the right place. I think he said his heart was in the right place, but I'm not sure if it came across to me as if it was.
I think it was. I think, like Emmanuel mentioned, is that he is flawed as a character because he has these goals and wants of his own, but he loves his daughter so much that it's kind of like convoluted things a bit. Because his calling and his destiny is to be a pilot and to be an astronaut and to be an explorer, and his like whole point is that he thinks humanity should be explorers and there shouldn't be like treading water on Earth, just doing nothing. And so, kind of like, he wants to save humanity. His mindset is like he loves his kids. He loves them so much that he worries for her for the state of the world that's going to come to pass. And so even that scene, he kind of like in the just before he leaves, he says all the right things, and then he says the whole thing about, oh, I'm going to be like your age when I come back, and it's like he kind of messes up by just saying that because he thinks he's trying to be funny, and it's like, oh, he's just ruined it now. He had it almost perfect. He almost could have just left at the perfect moment, and he said that, and it just like Murph was like, no, this is too much. And it's like, no, you just ruined it all now, and now he has to live with that consequence of like saying the wrong thing, and there was just not enough time for him to like make amends with that because it was the ticking clock of the launch and or everything subsequent. So he has to live that mistake.
But
The
I
whole
don't know if
film is
that was
kind
the
of
bit
like
where, because that's where I don't think it's written as well as it could be, because it's portrayed as that being the bit where it all went wrong, but I feel like it went wrong before that, and it's like,
well, him
like he,
choosing to leave, maybe.
well, no, not necessarily that. Like, I understand all that bit, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's the whole conversation. I was going like, you're really like, the things that you're saying are like, it's a lot for somebody like Murph to process, especially when she's already in like this emotional state and all that kind of stuff. And this is another thing, like, you know, the bit where one of the robots is talking about like how they're 90% honest because that's the best way to deal with emotional beings and all that kind of stuff. all that stuff. I thought that was that was a really nice idea, and like it's just like the whole thing about like how fragile humans are and all that. That was really cool. I think if it was if it the whole if I think if his character and like the whole sort of most of the dialogue was sort of thought out a little bit more, then it could have been a little bit more like gracious, I suppose might be the right word. Like it's like I'm saying, like it's very like purpose first. So it's like in this scene we need Murph to upset. No, we need Coop to upset Murph, and that's gonna like be this big emotional scene for when he's driving off and all that. But they didn't think about like I guess like the little nuances that could have come to play that would have been a bit more meaningful later on when the robot's going into this stuff about us being fragile as a species, and just things like that. It's like I just wish you weren't trying to like hammer everything. It's and that's the thing. I think in Close Encounters, because there's no dialogue around him leaving.
Yeah.
Like the whole film is just him slowly building up to a sort of a mental state where he has to go like that. There's no kind of well,
Ambiguity.
you sort of you put your own kind of like meaning onto it, which I think is why it works. Like it's ambiguous. It's not ambiguous, but like it's open enough that you can go.
It's an interpretation of like you
Yeah.
understand. I know what you mean, because I think there was a lot of dialogue up to that scene, but I feel that this film does a bit of both. Even though I will agree that Close Encounters does that whole bit better, I feel that the sequence where there was a lot of dialogue and he's speaking to Mook is, yeah, it is on the nose. It's just the sequence after that I really love, but just to see his face with emotion just driving off, and then it's that hard cut to the launch of the ship. That is just perfect filmmaking in my opinion, because it's just he's not saying anything. It's just music and just tension with the editing, and that's what the film probably needed more of. Was just the silence
Yeah.
of the emotions of his acting is just so good at that scene.
I agree with you actually, and I think that's probably a good way to like summarize sort of how I felt about this is like the things that were the result of the so basically everything all of the payoffs I was like, yeah, fine, like that's really nice. But the way that you got there, I kept going, that could have been worked on a bit.
Nice.
While we're on the subject of Coop's character, there was a bit earlier on than that made me kind of just scratch my head a lot. Because yeah, they get the coordinates for some just out of a freak accident, I guess. They get the coordinates. Coop goes, I'm gonna go investigate these coordinates. I'm not taking you with me because I don't know what's there. And I thought, you're going, Coop. That was a good dad move. You don't know what's out there. It could be something dangerous. Don't take your kid along. So then he goes to leave, and then as he's leaving the house, he goes, "Hey Murph, Granddad's here. So yeah, I'll see you later." Doesn't ascertain that she's actually like in her room in the house, just anywhere. Doesn't wait for a reply, anything like that. He's just in a big fucking hurry to get there. And then they get halfway down the road, and she's been under a blanket the whole time. And he goes, "Oh, you're here." And she goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, I'm not driving back." And I was just like, why did you have him be like a good dad to just go, bollocks, I don't want to pay extra for petrol.
But
I didn't even notice that bit.
this adds to his character. I thought the same thing, but in a different way. It just adds to his character. Like, this is the thing with me. Like, when things like this happen, I might be like, oh, that's like that person's being dumb, or like what they're doing is annoying, or they shouldn't be doing that. But it matches his character, unlike the shoes in Insomnia. It's just. So it doesn't bother me all as much because I'm like, by this point, they've already established she's not the greatest. She tries, but he's not great.
He doesn't
So
try very hard. He just sort of goes, "Nah, bollocks."
by
I
that,
still don't know anything more about what is at these coordinates. It could still be very dangerous, and I am endangering you by going there and taking you with me, but I really need to go there right now for some reason. I can't just drop you back where I know you're going to be safe. I have to go there right now for no reason, actually. There's
I
no
mean,
time limit.
yeah,
But what point was it he discovers Murph actually? Was it literally before they reach the gate?
You see, no, you see him shout up the house and not get a reply. And then the next shot is him in the car, and it's like the sun's still out. And then when he gets to the thing, it's night. So there was like, I don't know, a fair amount of there was at least an hour in
yeah,
it.
yeah. But saying that, I feel like he also, again, he is not the person to be safety first in a lot of things. If you just think
So
about
why did he say it the first time?
because he tries, his heart's in the right place, but he's not.
He doesn't try.
I mean,
He
does.
yeah,
says things. It's
he's
like what
still
it's like what
it's
Rob
very like
says.
very open.
He says something and then he doesn't act on it. So
Yeah,
I don't have an idea of his character because other than he just says things about himself that don't appear to be true.
it's kind of how the whole. If I put another situation in the second thing, so we already know how he'll throw so much safety caution to the wind. They had a flat tire, and he's like, "Oh, let's go." And Timothy Chalamet's like, "But what about the tire?"
By the way, while we're on that, you cannot chase a fucking drone through a cornfield on a flat tire. That is bullshit. I don't know why they decided to have him have a flat tire. Especially because the drone isn't even a thing that comes in later. It's complete. It's just not like it's not even part of the story. Past, I'm gonna drive through 2 cornfields on a flat tire that doesn't seem to affect my car in any way, and I'm gonna go and use it to catch a drone, and the drone's not important whatsoever. And it's like it's a 3-hour fucking film, and that was like a fair chunk of it. And I was like, could we have not? I get you need to tell me that he's good with technology and Murph's very intelligent and the boy doesn't he needs to be told not to drive off a fucking cliff. I understand you need to tell me all of those things, but I was like, why did you puncture the tyre for? And it's like, so he can go off the side of the road and Murph can say, why am I called Murph? And he goes, oh, it's because of Murphy's Law. I go, oh, and then we just, yeah, and yeah, you can't drive on a flat, but you can drive on a flat tire, but you definitely can't go to the speed where you're gonna catch up with a government drone.
There's a lot of suspension of disbelief, and plus that would have really like
Damn fucking straight. Yes.
messed up that back wheel. Like even after fixing the tire, would it still work? Anyway, um, but what was I gonna say? There's when it comes to like how he interacts with his kids, I feel like there's this element of sometimes he's doing things or he's trying to say things that he knows the mom would have said or done. But when it comes to it, that sometimes that's not truly what he believes. Like, let me put it this way. In a situation, if the mom was still around, she would be like, don't go with your dad, don't do this and don't do this. And he might be like, you know what? Yeah, your mom said there, don't follow me. But if she snuck in, he'd be like, well, you're here now. Whatever. Let's just get on with it. It's kind of like that. That's what I get from it. I get that he's trying. He's in a way. He's trying to do things like his wife would have wanted. But at the end of the day, he's still him. He's still this flawed
Except
person.
when he has to do an action. That's when that stops.
Yeah, like he's got his like. The thing is, I feel like I've known people like that and seen people like it. So it doesn't feel like unrealistic. That's the thing. Like it feels like there's people just like him, especially when it comes to certain things, they don't think certain things all the way through. But when it comes to the engineer, like the physical, they're like, yeah, and this and this and this and the technical
Well,
side. And when it comes to the
well,
family side, mm,
he did think it through initially because he said, "I don't know what's out there.
yeah,
You're in danger if you come with me, and I'm not taking you with me." And then later on, he went,
Yeah, but people change their
"I
minds.
really love,
Sense.
I really love
Right.
you, Murph. I really, really love you, Murph. Murph, you're the center of my universe, sweet Murph, Murph, I love you. I don't want any bad thing to happen to you, Murph. Pat, pat, pat. But when it actually comes to, can I just turn the car around and drop you off where I know you're safe? He goes, "Nah, fuck it."
Well, I
He
think
could get
I think
fucking
there's
shot.
tons of films that actually done something similar. Like, there's always the call to adventure, and that's the whole point of this film. Is that that Cooper chooses that call to adventure because he, like Murph, and they're like he's a big kid himself because without the mother in their family, he is basically like her. They're kind of he's just got this rebellious streak, and he's just like he can't sit still. He's just so like driven himself as a person to try and find out what's on the other side of the hill kind of thing. And that's the whole point. And he's kind of like for that moment when he's seen Murph be this sneak into the car and hide under the blanket, he's like, okay, I'll give you this moment. You've done this. You've decided to like sneak into my truck and hide away. You've gone on to this effort to try and figure out what's going on because you've got this same thing that I have. Because they're so both of those characters are so similar because they have this like this
like,
longing for like to know what's beyond, and they want a better world than the world they're living in, and they're just kind of like twiddling their thumbs to being farmers and when this world is dying around them. So they just want this escape. And he's just changed his mind. Like it's like, okay, I'll give you this chance, Matthew. You'll be safe with me. You're with me every step of this journey. So
He
why not?
doesn't know that.
He doesn't know that, but that's the thing. That's the whole thing about this film is going into the unknown and going through that black hole and finding out what's beyond because you don't know what's out there. You don't know what you're going to find, but you're going to have to face your fears and just go into it. And that's
Well,
what Coop
I'm
has.
really glad. I'm really glad that Murph didn't like just try like just sneak onto the van while he was driving to the space station because he'd have gone, fuck. I don't know
Yeah, but
if
there's
I
also
can
a
help you
realistic
actually because
thing because that's his truck,
we're
isn't
going
it?
to
Because
we're,
it's a different thing
we're
because
going
it's
to
not
space.
his own thing. Because Alec doesn't
So
seem
I
to
know
understand the
we're
truck
going
is different to the
to
spaceship.
space. We're going to go to a planet that's orbiting a black
He
hole.
doesn't know
But
it's
since you're actually in the truck already, I'm not going to turn around because the film's about adventure.
Who wants to hear my opening statement, guys? Because I haven't actually had the chance yet.
Me neither, actually. So, yeah, get muted.
just to add to this whole thing, whether it makes it better or worse, um, what you call it? If I was in this situation, and I'm not saying that this is necessarily good or not, I might actually do the same thing because of how I am, and I'm sure I would get told.
Wow.
And
Because if you're a father, you'd be like, okay, I can trust myself with looking after my own daughter because it's like
don't
this is the
know
thing
that.
you can be with her by your side.
there's also an
Oh, great. So when you get shot in the head, your daughter also gets shot in the head. Brilliant.
you are safer. You're like Tars or Case. You were more safer, and that is a good thing. I'm not saying that what I might do or what he did in the film are good things. It's more of a fact that in that moment, I might think, you know what? You might try and stop a kid so much. And if they're going to do it anyway, you know what? Whatever. You're with me. Let's do this. I'm just going to do my best to protect you, and hopefully, like this will be a good experience for you, and it all goes well. Yes.
To be fair though, I mean, like, I think where all this falls down is like it's another scene that doesn't really make sense in the way that it's written. So it's when he comes face to face with Michael Caine for the first time, and you know that he knows him, but you don't know how he knows him. And the first thing that he does is he basically pleads for Michael Caine not to kill his daughter. So you kind of see in that scene that like if you're sort of going into this with the mindset that your daughter could get killed, then it's maybe not as light a decision as it's made out to be to take her there. But also, when you find out how he knows Michael Caine, and it's that he used to be his boss at NASA or whatever, it's
We're
like,
NASA. We're the NASA you used to work for.
it's like, well, if he was your boss at NASA, then why were you worried about him killing your daughter? He's clearly not the kind of person who's about to kill your daughter. And it's like, if you were that level of irrational in this moment, then why did you bring her? Like, yes.
I would say what you're saying, it makes complete sense. Just to add to it, what makes it even worse? What I would say, I think the part on the way there to me made sense. The part that you're pointing out makes less sense when he actually sees Kane, because he says to Brand, "There's only one Brand I know, and he wasn't blah blah blah." He like a professor. Because so it made it seem like he was like a professor to him, or someone who taught him. We didn't know he was necessarily his boss or whatnot at NASA. But so that makes it even worse, like you said. So when he first sees him, it's just like, oh, you're seeing your professor. That must be him. And then he's still worried that they're going to do something. And
Yeah,
I wonder if it's like some context missing that they should have put in to make that make sense. Because like you said, it's not there.
yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me because it's like if you've come face to face with this guy and the first thing that you're thinking is please don't kill my daughter, that to me says that this guy is a piece of shit. But then for the rest of the film, he's lovely. Like he's like there's nothing else to suggest that he's a shithead. Like so it's like, well, why? I don't know. I don't understand why you would make this character somebody that he knows. Well, I do. I understand that, but I don't understand what. Well, this is the problem. I think the reason that they set it up this way is to create a bit of tension that's not there, and it's
Yeah.
like
Does he know that it's NASA at that point he meets Tars?
he doesn't, but he knows. He well, no. So he
Can't remember.
so
Charles
the
brings
only
him in.
Yeah.
yeah. So the way that he finds out that it's NASA is when Michael Caine says, "This is the NASA that you used to work for," and
Oh,
it's what I mean about the writing being so clunky because it's like the only reason you would word it like that is so that we know he used to work for NASA because he already knows.
Yeah.
I still don't know
I
why
get that now.
he
Yeah.
thinks that he's a threat, like
And then
so much that he's going to kill a 10-year-old. Like it's
We're NASA, the same NASA you used to work for, as opposed to the NASA that you didn't used to work for, which you didn't.
Yeah, I think that's the trouble because you need to like have the sense that Cooper has to know who NASA is and he has to have worked for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't let him be on this mission. So that's the important thing to have. But I think at that point, he shouldn't really know that where he is NASA. So I think that's a bit of like, I should have just reworked that just slightly, just to kind of like muddle it,
yeah,
to stop the muddle.
it just needs some reworking. Like it's
Yeah.
like it needed somebody to say the implication of this scene is that this man is evil. If you're worried, if you know him and you're worried he's going to kill a 10-year-old, that means he's evil.
Yeah.
And also,
It also,
so
another bit that needed rewriting was the bit where Coop says to Michael Caine, "Oh yeah, they shut you guys down because you wouldn't drop bombs from the stratosphere onto starving people." And Michael Caine goes, "Yeah, when they realised that dropping bombs on starving people wasn't a long-term solution, they decided to bring us back." And I was just like, "What the fuck are you?" So that NASA got shut down. So the government, the US government, went, "We've got too many starving people. Let's drop bombs on them. Who do we get to help with that? I know, NASA." And then NASA went, "Nah." And he went, "Oh, okay, never mind. Actually, NASA, while you're there, we do actually want you for another thing. Do you want to start operating again, but in secret, as like an underground kind of thing instead?" And I was just like, "What the fuck?"
it's really weird because it is
What a
as
weird
if they
There's a
went,
throwaway
lot to unpack.
line to
There's a lot to unpack.
just chuck that Just chuck
It's-
that throwaway line in and just don't do anything with it afterwards.
It's just really strange because it is as if they went, hang on, we've written a scene that implies he might be capable of killing a 10-year-old. We better write another scene where he explicitly says he refused to bomb people. And it's like, but that was
Yeah.
never his job. Like, that was...
Well, I
And he's
suppose
just gonna go there and he's just gonna stand there and go like, it wasn't a long-term solution. And they go, yeah, you're right, Michael Caine. Actually, he's
it
like,
certainly
I had
wasn't.
no problem
Lazarus
bombing the
came back from
starving.
the
I'm
dead.
Michael Caine.
You know, I suppose it's always having that element of doubt with Michael Caine's character, because obviously right up until like the third act, he's always been. You get obviously the revelation we'll talk about later. The plan A was never on the cards. It was always about plan B. So technically, he had been lying the whole time. So he's always been a bit of a despicable character in that regard.
Oh,
So
God,
obviously,
that
there's
scene.
despicable, and then there's like being a pawn to the government. That's another kind of situation that he is. But at the same time, he's always been a bit of a very ambiguous, morally grey person from the get-go.
That scene with Murph, I was like, fucking hell, you would be angry, wouldn't you? If you
Yeah.
sat at his bedside and he's going, I've got a limited amount of words left and I've spent a long time setting this up, but your dad didn't need Michael Caine. Where have you gone?
Caine.
I need to do a poem. I have no chance of finishing. You've heard it already, actually. I say it quite a lot.
Do not
I,
go gentle into that good night.
That fucking poem. That fucking shitty
And-
poem. If it was said one time, I'm gonna gone like, yeah, right, fair enough. That's pretty neat.
It's a fucking
But he
great
says
poem.
it fucking 4 times. Yeah, it is good. It's a nice poem, but not 4 fucking times.
Old Alex
Shit.
should rage at the close of day.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
in
I
all
do.
seriousness,
Rage,
would you have
rage
hated it?
into the
Would you
dying.
have hated
Simon,
the
go
poem
to
more?
bed.
Did you hate the poem more? Or did you hate hearing word Murph more?
I hated Murph. I definitely hated Murph more.
Okay,
You know what? You know
that's
what I did, Simon? Before you go to bed, I did this. I was a bit autistic with this actually, because the first time, the amount of times I heard Murph, like it just annoyed me so fucking much that on the second go, I kept a tally. I tallied how many times they say Murph in 10-minute segments, and the final tally was that Murph is said 81 times. But as you can see, it's like hyper concentrated. So in the first 10 minutes, you got 3 Coops to 10 Murphs.
Wait, you saw it?
Wait a
You
second.
saw it
Wait.
more than twice.
Alec, that's a code. That's a Morse code that says
Yeah.
stay.
It's a
Oh,
series of
that's
dots and
tally mark.
dashes.
Tally mark, Simon. I see how you got confused. Fuck. But yeah, it said 15 times in the last. I can't even read what that says. 140 minutes. That's 15 times. There was one scene where Michael Caine says it to her in fucking like 4 times in a row, and I haven't left the room yet, and I'm like, I know what the fucking name is. So anyway, if anyone wants a copy of that, I can send that on. That's proof of my autism. There you go.
Nah, you're good.
Get it here first. I did this so you didn't have to.
It's
There
okay.
was
Look at
no
this. At the end-
interest of me doing that.
At the end of 50 minutes, Murph has been said literally twice in the amount that the main character's name has been said. That's how fucking crazy it is.
Well,
Would you say that he's not necessarily the main character though?
exactly.
She is.
No, I wouldn't. He is the main character. That's ridiculous.
I don't know.
Remember what he
I'll
said.
give you that she's the douche agonist, I'll tell you that. But Cooper's the main character.
But remember, besides main character, remember what he says. They didn't pick me. They picked her. This whole time, they picked her to save the world.
Well,
Oh, you're right.
I mean,
It's not annoying then.
I mean, it's also a bit weird because technically it's him anyway because it's just him in the future. So I don't know how that works as well. I mean, I can make a joke about being non-binary, but like it's not that. It's just that he's they and they chose her because that's their daughter. You know, it sounds really stupid if you say it out loud. And I really and the more I think about it, it's like, yeah, I'm glad. I'm like, as much as I enjoyed the film itself, that doesn't actually make sense. And it's like
He's they and they chose her. The third film in the To Me Who Loves You series.
Oh, but, what to add to what you were saying about before about the whole NASA dropping bombs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, even though I do agree it needs to be rewritten better,
Just
what I would say is it's not actually unrealistic. So there were certain things I learned about NASA, how they began, how they operated a lot, like in the beginning, things they kind of developed. Like when he was saying how we're operating in secret because if we told like people we were developing X, Y, and Z, they would say, "Oh, what you're doing is pointless. Like don't do that." And it reminded me immediately of how when they was developing the internet and anti-air missiles and certain things like quite near each other, they didn't tell the public because they would have lost funding. And NASA is a branch off and part of the military. So especially in the early days, there were times when a lot of stuff that NASA was doing was directly helping to develop certain things for the military in America, i.e., like anti-air kind of defense mechanisms, and especially when the war was kind of quite cold, hot, whatever. Um, so when they were saying that, yes, it's not explained, and it should be rewritten, but it technically makes sense, and it will also make sense that the military would go, all right, while we have most of our main folks drop like sorting out like keeping the peace and all this kind of stuff, you've got this stuff where you can get to a certain altitude and do whatnot. All right, go drop these bombs. Of course they would say no, they're NASA. They're not military folks. You're not going to find enough people to go, yeah, that's fine. But it would make sense for them to ask them, especially with their close ties and connections and how they started off. So that was
I mean, you probably could have like fixed the issues just by like even if you just had like a fictional sort of underground arm of NASA or something. And then it was like you don't have to have shut NASA down and then restarted them in secret. And then the line of dialogue didn't have to be "We're the same NASA you worked for." It could have been, "Oh, I didn't know you existed." It's just like there's so many things that you could have done to like have that story told a bit more. Again, graciously.
such a just a weird throwaway line that doesn't come up later, and like if the story doesn't function, but the story would function without having this weird line in there about dropping bombs on the starving, and it's like, yeah, just why even put that in there? And I don't know, I don't really see the connection between don't let people know NASA is still operating, because if they know that NASA's still operating, they will lose interest in growing food. I don't see how those two lines.
no,
Oh,
it's not
I
that
see.
they'll
Emmanuel, you say your
basically
thing.
revolt
Why
because
would
of
they
the
revolt?
funds. NASA is funded by people's taxes quite heavily. Most of the funding comes from people's taxes. So if they knew that the money, instead of, because there's still a shortage of food. So if they are diverting their money towards not helping people survive, people would lose their crap and riot.
Yeah,
But what if they said they're looking for another planet to colonize?
They
that
would lose
still wouldn't be enough.
because they would be like,
Oh.
oh, so you care more about these future people that might happen than my family who's dying and starving right now.
Yeah.
It would be
What
mad.
about we're going to colonize Mars as like a
No,
like
this is what's
nothing,
really
and
clever about what Emmanuel's bringing up is that something I was going to bring up as well, because it goes back to the moon landings back in the 1960s. because there was a lot of riots and kind of like protests going on, because this is like back when the civil rights were happening. And there was this song called "What Is on the Moon." It was quite a funny like poetry like verse that was I can't even pay my electric bills, and there's "What Is on the Moon." It was just kind of again this protest song where these black people and a lot of other people all across the United States were kind of protesting against NASA and the moon landings, because America was kind of like in dire straits. Everything it's kind of still like it is now. Everyone couldn't afford how to pay in their bills and everything like that. They couldn't do this and that, and NASA was spending millions upon the Apollo missions, and it's kind of like the general public and people who lived in like Queens and, for instance, were so like disheartened by all of this government funding going towards a mission that what they weren't seeing any of it. Is the here and now that people care about, not the future and the maybes and the hows and what ifs and stuff. It's like this would probably still be happening in the future that Interstellar is setting, because there will be people being like up in arms about, wait, that world's going to shit. We can't afford to make ends meet, and we can't even grow crops, and yet they're spending millions upon millions trying to get into another solar system. What's going on? It would be. I can understand why they'd keep it hidden, because it's just such a big deal. It's like, yeah, sure, the money is being spent on something else, but yeah, if people heard about that, it just like tear the world apart even further than it is.
Mhm.
And it's just
Yeah.
there's so much
And
interesting.
yet, and yet they need pilots. They need pilots who have actually practiced before, but
Yeah.
can't
And
find
they,
any
they hadn't
pilots.
anyone. And that was
Very
so,
luckily, they very luckily get one just in time the day before the mission that they're going to send
yeah,
pilots off.
because
They go, fucking hell, Coop, you're like the ideal guy. The ideal guy just showed up of his own accord, very luckily in our lap the day before we're going to send everyone off to space. He just appeared.
But was it
Fuck
the day
me,
before?
that's great. I don't know.
So,
Was
so
it
that's the thing.
Right,
Is that
it was like
that
right
whole
before.
mission could have been like stopped for like a decade, because we've sent these people at Brand, we've sent Man, and we've sent all these people to find these worlds, and we can't do fuck all about it because there's no one else we can find. And then, as destiny has it, Cooper turns right up on the door, and they're like, okay, this guy is the last missing link. Let's do it. And
Whereas if they were a public company, they could put up a job opening going, hey, I need an experienced pilot and I'm NASA, please. And then they could just have an experienced pilot and they wouldn't have to rely on Coop just showing up. No, but there was job openings before the internet.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of things like we'd say that would probably, they could have like made a more interesting like argument of like, maybe we could have like tried harder, tried to get an astronaut here and there before that. Maybe there had been, and maybe that's something they could have added in the script, as like, we've been trying for years, trying to get this perfect fourth person to pilot our endurance, and they hadn't been finding that person. Everyone they've been trying to find has just not worked, and they're just not good enough, and every simulation we've gone through has just failed. Maybe they could have had scenes like that, where they could have had
then they realised that the key was to wait for a little girl somewhere, despite the fact she's grown up in a world where dust storms can happen on a dime. We've got to wait for a day where a girl leaves her window open and fucks off out of the house for a couple hours, so that a dust storm can come in and show the Morse code thing, so that Matthew McConaughey can find the coordinates, so that he can go over there, and that's the inciting incident. That's all down to this girl who's grown up in a world where dust storms happen on a dime, forgetting to fucking shut a window, and everyone going, I don't care, bollocks. Let's just maybe there could be just dust everywhere. I don't.
That was really distracting, because I thought Pat halfway through that had started going.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all.
But,
well, that was NASA's plan then. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I get your, what's the word for it? I can't think of it.
Grasping at straws.
You're past it, Alec. But
Nah, you're all insane. That's crazy.
What was I gonna say? As my opening statement, it was really nice to um, hearing the music, I guess re-experiencing it and kind of remembering why I did like it as much as I did and why the music as well brings back like good feeling kind of memories from seeing it and whatnot. And
You know
it's
what? That soundtrack's really good. I'll give it
Okay, good.
yeah, and it's I mean Hans Zimmer is great anyway, but it this happens when it comes to like if for anyone who's ever worked as a composer, like this time around Nolan just went, oh, I want it to be like nothing else. Bend the big timpani drums and all that percussion,
up.
mumbles. Here's a page of like a sum up of the script. Go off. You don't get nothing else. And I'm just like man, I'm sure he's worked with worse, but still, it's just
Yeah.
like that sucks as a composer.
Yeah, could I interject a minute actually? There's an interesting story about what you're saying there. But apparently before the film began shooting, Nolan just spoke to Zimmer straight away and gave him like a small treatment of the bare bones of what the story is, but it didn't have any of the science fiction elements to it at all. And all it was just kind of like about a father leaving his daughter for an important job, and the father who abandons his daughter. And that's basically like 1,000 words that he gave Hans Zimmer, and he said, like, go away, create this piece. And Zimmer decided to create like the main theme from just that alone. And from that, they create the score anyway. And I thought that was really interesting. He just channeled the core concept of the film in just the music, and I feel that really comes across very well. And one interesting other fact before we move on is that it is the organ in the film
Mm.
was and this it was recorded in the largest church in the United States, and they had to go on location to record all the organ soundtrack at the actual church itself, and they based the score around the recordings from the organ. I can't remember what state it was in, but it was the biggest organ in North America. So that's why it had such a big sound.
And for the sound design and whatnot, because you it to be as big as possible naturally to really feel that space when when
It
you're
was,
in.
it was, it was only the biggest organ in North America because Emmanuel had moved here.
What? Oh, good. Oh, but okay, in terms of science wise, um, um, I am glad that I didn't know all of the kind of be like behind the scenes part on that part. I'm glad they kept pushing hard against him. And I read up on like one or two things. I was just like saying how he really wanted to do some things that's classic to kind of more traditional sci-fis and whatnot. And they were just like, no, you cannot have faster than light travel. No, you cannot have this thing that is this kind of magical concept. It's like, yeah, like at the end of the day, we want to have fun with this, but we shouldn't, everything we do, we should try and stem from scientific thoughts and school of thoughts that we're having. So, yeah, most of this is theoretical, but it's theoretical in our world that we live right now. It's our theories. It's not based off of some magical kind of science fiction that we don't think is true.
Yeah.
It's sometimes they overlap. Sometimes some theory can be this fantastical thing. Um, but I like that they kind of stemmed it from that. And even though Nolan didn't want to go that way, they kept pushing until it went more that way. And even things like how the how much it was to render when they first went into the wormhole and different things, like that was really crazy impressive from a CGI standpoint and what they were doing behind the scenes, which I think helped someone make this other kind of paper and also some other kind of computer science kind of stuff. It's all cool. It's all cool when you have things that kind of spill off of a film, like when Pixar or someone or like Spider-Verse, they'll do some kind of animation thing and that's really pushing a different style. And then it starts inspiring other studios to go, like, actually, maybe we should try and not look like Disney Pixar. Maybe we should do something else. It's just little things, but point is, I liked it. Saying that my favorite is Dark Knight of his films. That and then Inception second, I think, and then this, I think. But anyway, yeah, I really like this film. Alex, sorry, you want to say something?
I just wanted to say with the science, do you think Christopher Nolan knows what a black hole is?
He knows what the
I'm
public
not confident.
he knows what the public thinks what a black hole is. He would not know, and
Okay,
that's
what's
so
what's
important.
It's Alex ass.
that? Oi!
I think he probably knows the basics that when really big stars die, sometimes they become black holes and nothing escapes it. That's
Does
probably
he know? Does he know it means death?
not necessarily like everything.
Only if you get sucked into one.
Everything
Yeah.
they
So do you think he knows that?
everything they said in the film, like science-wise, it is theoretically one of the possibilities that scientists talk about, even with
Yeah.
the gentle horizon, even though it's not gentle, like that character said. I loved it when he said that. I was like, well, he said, yeah, it's not gentle, but it's still a much slower kind of compared to some black holes. The thing is, like, there's still theories whether some black holes connect to white holes. There's still theories like there's so many theories out there. Like what they kind of say in a lot of kind of schools or kind of simpler explanations, it is just that. It's such a simple explanation. It's not the full story. So while they probably could have done better in the film explaining certain things, it's not necessarily against what different theories are out there saying at the moment. Because again, just that guy, we can't actually prove a lot of things because we can't see inside a black hole. We can't get anything from back there. So
Yeah.
even when it came to the kind of whole Tesseract thing, that's a whole nother theory. That's probably some other kind of scientific paper that's out at the moment. That's still or that was out at the moment at the time that theorizes all these things. So while a lot of the film isn't necessarily accurate, it's all based on theories that stem from scientists in the field at that time. And I think besides the kind of fantastical elements, one of the only things that wasn't quite realistic was like a minor thing of the ice cloud. They don't think it would have been hard enough um,
Yeah, to shatter like they did.
yeah, and to kind of like do that, you can get stuff similar to that, but maybe not as hard as that, and that are still clouds. But otherwise, it was it was pretty decent, to be honest.
I mean the problems I have with it though is that like there's so many instances where quite simple things and like sort of relationship dynamics, references, and like all of these like things that we could have got on our own are explained, but then the things that aren't explained are the bits where I'm going like, but how does that work? Like the black holes, like the whole thing of like aging near a black hole, like how
Yeah.
is it possible to come back at a younger age than what your daughter is and all of that? Like that's all really interesting stuff. And it's like, why do you keep explaining to me who Lazarus is? I want to know that bit. Because
Well, hey, if something's not explained properly, that is bad writing. We established that last week.
it's
Yeah.
just like
Wonder is it, and I do agree it's bad writing, but I also wonder if it's if it's the Nolan brothers and other people, because of course they would have like a writings table, whatnot. But I wonder, is it them going for the majority of cinema goers? This does not matter. Like, we are cinema buffs. We also really care. It matters to us, but a whole bunch of people who go to the cinema, does it actually matter? I'm just posing that question there because there's a lot of things they could put that in there. They could they don't obviously need to say Murph's name so many times or explain like who Lazarus is or so much. But at the same time, how many people care about how it works? A lot of people
Apparently zero.
are about the human element of it, the relationship, the love, what's going on in human element, and don't really care about really understanding how that part of it works. Like compare it to like the anime where the audience I think would care very much to understand in the Blue movie like what is going on, how this works. The audience in this, you're going to have a lot of people like us, but then you're going to have a whole bunch of people that might not care. And there's this, I think there's this balance where if you're not careful and you obviously there's good script writing, so you could explain it more. But if you explain it too much, you could lose a lot of people. And maybe they just chose to not even bother, which is not necessarily a good thing, but maybe they chose not to bother and go with the more kind of classic, let's focus more on this side of things, which we know a lot of the kind of paying cinema goers will go someone's random grandma and this other person who don't really care much about that stuff, but they're like, oh yeah, and the emotion was really good and blah blah blah, and this kept happening. That was a nice movie. I don't know.
I think I
Well,
wish they would have
speaking
gone
of,
like one or the other though, because it's like if you're going to keep explaining the other stuff, then I want you to explain that stuff, or just leave the other stuff open to interpretation and don't bother. Like it's, yeah.
Yeah.
see, I just wanted them to explain why scientists were going, we need to colonize another planet to move to. Let's pick a couple that are in the direct orbit of a black hole. That's what I want to know.
Well, I
Because
think it's like the only choice they had though, because if the wormhole just happened to take them to a galaxy that would have been like 5,000 light years away, that's an opportunity no one has ever had in history of planet Earth. So that's kind of
Yeah,
like,
but
do we
there's
go down this black hole? I mean, do we go this wormhole? Oh crap, there's a black hole there, but there's some worlds on this. That's great. That's a chance.
but there are 3 planets that are orbiting the black hole. If they went to the one that's furthest away from it, they wouldn't have had to fuck about. That'd have just been the planet that they could have gone to. So the idea that you go, big black hole, let's go to the nearest one, and it's like, oh yeah, because this woman was on the nearest one, and then it's like, oh yeah, well we need her data, and it's just like it's very clear, very very quickly, this place is not habitable, and also if it's that near to a black hole, it's going to get sucked in it like very like soon anyway. So why is this a sustainable? Why do you think this is a sustainable solution to our planet dying? So we go, okay, let's go to the next nearest one. It's like, why don't you just go to the one that's over fucking there? There's nowhere near the black hole. And then if you did that, which is like the logical thing, then you could go, oh, hey, this planet's actually cool. It's actually like another Earth, basically. And then there's no film, and it all just relies. And so the whole thing is just we want to do the time dilation shit. So we're going to go to these two, which are about to get like eaten by a big fucking black hole.
Are they though? What is the space between the planet and the black hole?
yeah, what I would say, Alec,
Yeah.
I get
The first one's like right on it because that's what's making all the waves so tall.
what I would say, Alec, from what most people are told, that would make complete sense. And this is why there's so much. I have like a problem with how they kind of.
I'm not sure because I think the general idea of black hole, I think the general populace understands black hole means death.
But
So I'm not sure. I've clearly been proven wrong because people go, "This is brilliant." But
what I'm trying to say is that from what most people are told, like I said, your logic makes sense. I'm not saying you're wrong from that point. I'm saying if you ask, let's say, astrophysicists or scientists, they will not say the same thing as like what you've been told. Basically, if you have a stable black hole, to give an example, our galaxy is at the center of it is a stable black hole. It's crazy freaking powerful and shoots out matter every once in a while, which they're trying to theorize. Why does it shoot out matter sometimes, even though it's a black hole and we've proved it's a black hole? Like, is it getting too full? All sorts of kind of things.
Mm.
But if theoretically, there are existing like black holes out there with planets and kind of different stars and whatnot that are far enough away in a stable orbit that aren't actually getting closer. So if you have a planet like that, technically it would be fine. I also get why you were kind of like, why there's this obviously in the film where they're going, oh, should we go to this planet first or that planet first? Let's go to the one with Edmund, but then no signal. Obviously that turned, we know afterwards that turned out to be the best one, and man was just a lying prick. It's great because Damon, I forgot how he wasn't announced in almost any of the press releases or anything, and his name wasn't mentioned. So, like, even the first time around, you're like, oh, what the? Oh, it's Matt Damon. What? I wait, he's in this?
we've literally raised him from the dead. Lazarus.
Like Lazarus, who came back from the dead.
Lazarus, yes. Yeah, honestly, I think the whole thing is like we're not really scientists, so we can kind of like give them the benefit of the doubt that they wouldn't be doing this mission unless they knew that was a viable option. If all three
funnily
planets
enough,
were on the verge of being destroyed, I think they'll be like, oh, maybe not after the first probe.
funnily enough, I looked up what Neil deGrasse Tyson had to say about it, and his whole thing was a black hole's just bad. Like if there's a black hole over here and there's no black hole over there, you go the fuck over there. And he's like, so there'll be no reason for us to colonize anything that's near a black hole when there's Mars, which is not near a black hole. And he's like, we would colonize Mars before we fuck about with any kind of black hole.
Yeah, but does it have an atmosphere? That's the problem, isn't it? Mars doesn't have one.
No, but you could still colonize it.
The thing is, where this film is coming from, obviously, humanity is desperate to find a way to survive. We know he's on his last legs in the film, not now, not at least not yet. And they've obviously sent probes out, and the probes have shown that specific planets are potential viable options. So they've sent astronauts off to certain planets. Unfortunately, that planet gave off good numbers. Obviously, happened to be next to a black hole, but they had to investigate it. I think that's something that would. I think if you were that desperate to save humanity, I think that's something that they'd explore in the future. 100%.
Yeah.
You do things that you don't
worth
think
trying.
are possible when, like, we're just sitting there watching a film. We've got no pressure, but you could imagine if we had that situation, they're going to pick any way of keeping our space, everything on the planet alive. So I think it's completely plausible.
Yeah.
I don't see why that means let's go right next to a black hole. Let's try and set up shop on something that's going to be in a black hole.
You're missing the
in
point.
Like 10 years.
It's the point is that there's a
I'm not missing the point. I heard the point.
You are missing the point.
The wormhole is something that no one in the planet, in history of the human race, has ever had the opportunity of finding.
I'm fine.
And it's
if
there.
You want to go through a wormhole, that's okay. But you'd want to go away from the black hole, which is Edmund's planet. So you go the furthest away from the black hole.
Yeah, but by your logic, though,
And if
every
and if
single
they
planet
did,
is
that
at
would be
risk
the movie.
because it's around the black hole, isn't it?
It
So
is at
therefore,
risk.
all of
But if
them
it's
are like,
further, if it's further away from it, it's better than the one that's right on the doorstep of it.
But isn't that
It's
that's the
still-
nearest planet that they've come to? So
It's the
they've
first
got
one
to at
they
least
found.
explore it.
Yeah.
If I remember
Yeah,
correctly,
but you,
they didn't
Simon,
really
go to bed.
No, let me finish this point first. They didn't actually even want to like stay there. They just wanted to pop in, go, hey, is this bitch still alive? Yes? All right, let's get your information, let's leave. I thought that's what they wanted to do, but they fucked up because of the thing.
And why do they fuck up?
Because
They
of the black
fuck
hole, yeah,
up
absolutely.
No. They fuck up because Anne Hathaway sees a tidal wave coming and sees the wreckage of the ship and goes, I need to get the data. I'm not leaving the planet without the data. And I'm like, agreed, but the tidal wave is like here now. And she's like, I need to go and get that data. And I'm like, why do you need to get the data? What is so important about this fucking data? You're not going to colonize here, are you? There's fucking tidal waves that are like
if you're
3
a
times the size of a
scientist, you want to get
skyscraper.
that data.
What is the... Yeah, but there's no fucking point when your life is about to end because of a tidal wave hitting you in the face, is it?
Everyone in the moment will always try and do what they think they can do.
She can see
It's
it.
just like
She can see the tidal
meter
wave
away.
coming toward her, and she's still like, I can go. And then you're going to grab the data, and then you're going to get fucking destroyed. And it's like,
people
if you're
and
fucking
astronauts are
scientist,
stupid. I'm sure that any one of us would be like,
astronauts are
it's like the
stupid
scene.
now.
It's like the scene in the Last Crusade, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where he's just so close to reaching the Ark of the Covenant. I mean, sorry, the Ark of the Grail, Holy Grail. It's just so close, and he's like, "No, you have to let it go." But he still tries to reach for it because he thinks it's so close. It's like anyone would be in that position. I've literally spent their whole life to try and get
Anyone
to that planet.
in
Would try at
anyone in
least
that
a little
position,
bit.
It's a natural
anyone sees a wall of water,
human.
like
Yeah, but some people don't have a different rational fear, don't they?
they don't,
Like
they don't have an
you-
irrational fear of a tidal wave. There's
so
10
much
billion
so.
feet tall.
Yeah, but everyone is.
You've got like danger in the background. You've got danger in the background, and you've got something that you think is reachable.
Yeah,
there.
something a meter
Everyone
away
will
compared to a
reach
mile
out
away.
to get that. You
It's
can
in
say
the
you wouldn't do it, but if you're in that situation, you would 100% do it.
Well,
No, I
I
wouldn't.
mean,
I'd fucking run.
You say that from your couch.
no,
Yeah, and I'd
okay,
say it if I was
okay.
fucking there.
As much as I mean, to be honest, she had TARS with her. She could have got fucking TARS to do it for her. That's the only problem I had with that.
That's the thing.
That's
Okay, tell us.
that's
Do
the
this.
If she had
I'm
the
gonna
fucking
do it
robot
my
with her,
fucking
she
self. I'm gonna just
she
do that.
fucking fumbled that so badly because she's like, oh, I need to lift this. Oh, I slipped. And I was like, you have a fucking robot with you that can fucking like lift shit up for you. Why did you not have the robot with you? That's the only problem I had with that scene. If she had the
And then when
like
when she's back in the ship, she figures it out without the data anyway. Like if I was Coop, I'd never talk to her again. I'd be like, you cunt. You've like
that
you've
is a bit
destroyed my
mad, to be fair. Like you
destroyed
put
my
us all
fucking
in
life
danger. You put us
for
all in
data
danger.
you
You
couldn't
put decades
recover.
on me, and now you don't need it. Like what?
And it was all for data that you couldn't possibly recover. That was going to tell you what anyone could already tell you, which was this planet's not habitable.
Yeah.
And it's like, great, thanks for ruining my life.
There's two things I'd like to say.
Fucking dumb bitch. Also, I hated her from her introduction where he's like, I knew a Dr. Brand. He was a scientist. And she went, what makes you think I'm not? And I'm like, insecure. Somebody's insecure. Nobody had anything to say about
I do think
you.
that line has aged very badly, very quickly.
That line didn't involve you whatsoever.
Alex sexist, never mind.
No, I think that's an example of a man writing a woman. I don't think that's a good line.
Yeah, but to be fair, it wasn't like the best.
There's two things I'll say. One more funny, one more science thingy. When you talk about that, it reminded me of the thought that going back to Sunshine is probably
Oh dear.
this is probably the B team.
Sorry, no. Sunshine was the fucking BT. I forgot that I'm in control of 95% of the ship, but I just don't know, forgot.
Like, this is the B team, and who knows, like when they actually would have gone up or whatever kind of thing. But it kind of like makes me think, like it kind of gives you the feeling that they put everything on their A team. The B team was just okay, we will try our best with whatever we got left.
I think what you've made me realise with this is that all Sunshine needed was Michael Caine going, "This is Icarus 2. Icarus 1 flew too close to the sun."
Great. Oh, that'd be great.
Icarus didn't have the endurance.
Also,
Rob's made me just cross Michael Caine over with fucking 2 Nolan films. You should go on Icarus 2. Never.
wait,
Oh,
which
no,
film?
it's all right. It's going near
Dark
a
Knight when he
black
was-
hole. They're completely safe. Safe as houses next to a black hole.
When he's Alfred.
Where is that? What?
When he was Alfred.
Oh yeah. Oh man, but yeah, the second thing, just to kind of on top of what Pat was saying about the probes, they were in a desperate situation of they have very limited time. Now, they've got information that there's actual possible planets that they don't really need to work too hard to terraform that might be actually fine for life. For example, Edmonds, it would have been given signs that they could actually even breathe on the surface, like we actually found out near the end. They could actually, the air was breathable. Mars, there's so many problems with it, and I'm not sure how much you know about it, because The Martian doesn't really do a good enough job to kind of show just, I think, how hostile. No, it does, but how would I say, that place is so problematic to try and just set up an even, okay, maybe it does do a good job, but it's place is so problematic to set up any kind of even colony. If you don't die from, like, if your building and everything doesn't get destroyed by the dust in that freaking place, you will die from the radiation and get radiation poison like not too long after you stay there. But if they've
And if
got,
you're near a black hole, you will die also.
but not necessarily.
Yes, necessarily. It will suck you in and you'll kill.
But again, if you
Okay. Let's
if
not
you-
scientists. Remember that. That's a bit of a PSA.
I'm quoting Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is a physicist.
but like at the end of the day, he's not wrong, and I respect him. And at the same time, other people said in this call, this is all theoretical. At the end of the day, this was a situation where they didn't want, they sent off 12 people. None of the other ones really seemed like good prospects at all, and the only 3 happen to be near a black hole that have a stable orbit. Now, they also would have been monitoring these orbits and seen, they would have been able to calculate if these orbits had moved, if even before they went to these planets. So even though it sounds crazy, there could be planets like that near our supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy that are stable as well. And they've also, again, they've seen this in other places. At the end of the day, they're desperate. Just like Pat and whatnot said, they have limited time. At the end of the day, they don't have to stay on this planet. This planet could have, let's say this planet had a life of 100,000 years left. It could be like, let's at least stay there for a bit and then we can go, we have some more time to go somewhere else. But it's
Yeah.
It's what
And I'm
they've
okay if that's Edmund's. I'm okay if that's Edmund's planet, but not the one that's right there. It's the black hole is here, and that first planet's here. And it's like, fuck me, that's definitely not viable. But
It does seem like a
That's also-
strange decision to go there first. To be fair, like it's
and then it's
like
also
it-
why didn't they send robots? Why didn't they send the robots to actually assess it instead of people? Because Matt Damon has a line where he's like, "Oh, you can't improv. The robot can't improvise because we can't program a fear of death." And I'm like, "You can program a sense of fucking humor. Why can't you program a fear of death into it?" And it's just, and then you don't have the trouble of someone lying about things to about like the atmospherics being fine. You don't have that danger because a robot can't lie. So Simon very helpfully mentioned the robots are nice in this. So you don't have the Dr. Man problem if you could send robots out. You don't have people going crazy and going like, actually, I want to live and I'm willing to kill everybody. So
Actually,
So-
you can program a level of humor into a robot. You can't program fear. That's just not possible.
I not
It's just not possible.
not.
You have to get Neil deGrasse Tyson to tell you.
I will.
Since you're on
No,
close buddies.
Well,
I think that's
you're best buddies with Christopher Nolan and Kip Thorne, so
well, I
you
think
watch
that's
the
one
special
cool thing
features.
I will mention about like Dr. Man, why he's such an interesting character. Because obviously, yeah, he could put robots in it, but the idea of like Matt Damon's Dr. Man is, to me, is just like he's one of the best characters in it, just because he's a piece of shit,
He is-
obviously, but
He is the best character.
because it's because he kind of is like the metaphor of humanity as the human race, in my opinion.
Is that why he's called Dr. Man?
Yeah, you could say that as a wink, wink. That
Suck.
metaphor right there of Dr. Man. He's called Man. Oh man. So I
your
think that
Coop's named Coop because he's cooped up in his house and he needs to get
yeah,
out.
it's all
Oh shit!
Oh, I mean, if you got to say it like that, then
And-
afterwards you have Edward Wolf, who's the lone wolf out there. It's just like it's gonna be more stupid the more you say it.
Simon, what time do you have to be up tomorrow?
Actually,
he's on Miller's planet right now. Time's relative on there, so it's kind of like every hour in film club is like 5 days inside.
If you're staying, if you're going to stay up, that's your choice. But you're going to be tired.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Ben, I cut across you then.
No, it's okay. I think we've all kind of like realised the pun of man and coop, so it's too good to mention. But like, yeah, the whole thing about man is he's like, I think it's just because of how arrogant he is, and like the character himself goes onto this planet and he realizes he's made this awful mistake and that this world is dead and there's nothing really happening and there is nothing he can do, and he's living with this fear of like being a failure, and his survival instincts obviously kick in at that point, because if he says this planet's crap and no one could go to it because there's nothing worth going to it, he's going to basically he's writing his own like death sentence, because he's not going to get rescued. And if he says it's good, then yeah, he will get rescued. And obviously when Cooper and everyone arrive there, he's like literally if he kills them all, as grim as that is, he himself can take this like the glory of like saying, look, this planet was rubbish, but I've come back with this other.
Nothing sus about that.
Yeah, nothing sus about that
signed
at
off
all.
this. I signed off this planet. These guys came to get me. None of them. They all died mysteriously, and the planet's actually not habitable. Turns out. But I'm back.
Yeah, but that's
great. That's fucking watertight. That is.
That's what makes him such a like an interesting character, because it's just
You know
represents
what?
humanity.
I'm not sure he is the best character anymore. I don't. I think that's kind of stupid, actually.
Yeah, but you have to think about him. Someone like him who's just like spent his whole life just going to.
I'll ask Neil
exploration.
deGrasse Tyson if it's stupid or not.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. But but honestly, I'm trying to like. I thought that his character was so fascinating because of how like flawed he was. because someone like that being woken from hypersleep, someone thinking that there'd never ever be, that was it for them. Once he went under, that was it. That was he was like, no, I'm never going to get rescued. And then you find these people have woken him up, and yet he can't deal with it. He can't deal with the idea that he's failed, and
Yeah.
he just wants to get off. He wants to get back, and he just wants to get home, because it's just like he can't bear with the failure of just letting humanity get down. So he'd take up this lie and just completely bamboozle everyone because of his like sheer arrogance of like thinking that he was right.
What's messed
It's
up as well.
Yeah.
Like, oh, sorry. Oh,
Mm.
you.
I'm gonna start a new point, but you go. You go ahead.
For me, he was the most disliked character. he
Oh yeah.
so much like you said, it's so bamboozling and annoying how, okay, fair enough, you feel like you failed, all that kind of stuff. But because of the arrogance, the pride, he wanted to erase that mistake or whatever. And it makes no sense. But he also didn't make very much sense because he tried to dock manually,
Mhm.
even when he knew it was incomplete. The thing, yes, I don't think he was probably, it doesn't seem like he was like the main pilot or one of the pilots. Maybe he was. But
Didn't he
yeah,
fly to the planet?
he they all flew to their planets. What I mean, I wondered if he was one of the most skilled pilots that was there.
Oh.
Also,
Um,
Endurance probably is slightly more up to date than the ship he had flown there originally.
yeah, that as well. But like, it, regardless, he had lost it. He was past it. Anyone, even if you're not a pilot, you know, if there's an incomplete lock, you don't open that hatch. You are screwed.
Mm.
What level is screwed? Who knows? Screwed. There's no point.
Yeah. So he wasn't screwed.
He was very arrogant though.
He wasn't all the way
Yeah.
there. And it wasn't that crazy amount of arrogant. He could have been straight up with them from the beginning when they got here and been like, sorry, this was a lie. I did also be saved. We need to get everything here and go to the next available planet. Which is the next one that's actually decent? Because this one's not viable
Yeah.
outside.
Oh, the furthest away from a black hole. Yeah,
Go
yeah,
back
that
to
sounds good.
Edmonds. Yeah.
And then they would have just gone on together and went to Edmonds. But because they
Yeah.
had fuel for that. But he didn't and went all kind of,
Psycho.
huh?
He went proper psycho.
To be honest, for a split moment, I was like, I don't think this goes like Sunshine. But he's very much giving me the bad guy in Sunshine who just wants
Yeah.
to kill and wants humanity to die out.
Well, that's the thing. He
Yeah.
just wanted. He didn't care about. He says he cares about humanity, but he just wants to save himself. That's the key.
Yeah. Like, you say you care, but what you're doing makes crap. No,
Because he
no.
doesn't want to admit to his failure. It's like, oh crap, I've chosen the wrong planet. And it's like, just
What plan?
anyone else.
Yeah, you know what plan B is, and this makes it worse. I just thought about this. You know what plan B is. The only woman who is there, you're leaving behind. You cannot incubate these babies. Not even one of them. You need at least one lady. You are screwed. Why are you going by yourself? At least try and take the
Stupid.
woman.
Because he's very stupid.
He would
To
have
be
got
fair,
Really, really stupid.
To be fair though, I thought the population bomb was like, maybe there was a bit of dialogue that said otherwise, but the population bomb was already like everything was kind of like what's the word? They were all
Yeah.
can't get the words out.
No, you're right. They were going to incubate. They could incubate 10 children
Yeah.
to start off without a lady and then a woman, and then afterwards they
Okay, initially, yes. Yeah.
yeah, they
Okay.
would plus surrogacy to speed it up. So I forgot about that. Thanks. So I guess he still could have actually done it, but still, what a dick.
But
He still shouldn't have
but
done it.
could he have, because his real enemy was in the editing room. Don't know if you remember, but he goes to take Coop's long range communication thing off his helmet. He
Mhm.
takes it off. They're standing on a cliff. He takes it off and he throws it down a chasm. And then they get into a bit of a tussle. And then they fall down the cliff face next to the chasm.
But
And
did
then
you
when we cut,
And
Huh?
then find it. Yeah.
what?
did you see it go into the chasm, or did it just go
He would
into
have
the?
thrown it in. He would have thrown it into the chasm. Why wouldn't he?
He doesn't have sense. This guy, he
Okay.
didn't. No, me. This
Well,
guy,
regardless, hang on a sec. So they go down and they're right next to the chasm and they're at the foot of the cliff. So there's a big cliff behind them. There's a big hole next to them. In the next shot, the cliff's gone and the chasm's gone and they're on flat ground. And it's so that the long range comms device is over here somewhere so that Matt McConaughey can crawl toward it and save himself from Dr. Man because it wasn't down a chasm. It's over there because there was no chasm and there was no cliff. It's vanished.
in
I-
level of logic, which I actually like, that makes sense. I get you.
Yeah. It's a coincidence he finds it. Yeah.
He's Dr. Man. He doesn't even properly kill him. He just leaves him to die. If he was actually a person who would do things properly, if he had all the sense, there's a lot of things he wouldn't have done. Like,
Yeah, exactly. For the moment he woke up, he was not making any sense in a sense. You can say.
he wanted to make sure he was dead, he would have not only thrown his, yeah, he would have thrown his communicator in the chasm. And let's say he is the editing room, whatever. He also would have properly made sure he was dead. Or he would have completely took off his helmet or done something else. Like, he just
Or
okay, I'm just going to leave you and talk to you a bit, give you some comforting words while you die. Who on earth thinks those words are comforting? This guy, he's lost it from isolation. Isolation does a lot of, obviously, oh, Rob's gone. Oh no, he's just, okay. Uh, obviously,
Rob's
isolation.
dead. No, wait. He's like Lazarus.
He's back.
He raised from the dead, you know.
Oh, man.
No, I was more just trying to say how like just sloppy filmmaking it is. Like they're in one area, and then they get to their feet, and they're in a completely different area, and it's because if the communicator's down a chasm, Matthew McConaughey's fucking dead. But because he can't be dead, we've then completely changed what the environment was. We've not reshot anything, but there's now no cliff and there's now no chasm.
Well, I didn't notice that because I just thought it just fell to the bottom of where they rolled down to, and it just happened to be happenstance he could find it.
Big pit.
Did it fall down the
Big pit was.
Maybe I missed that.
I can't see I can't see how he'd have missed, and I can't see why he wouldn't have thrown it down there. But regardless, it's not
like
neither of those
off
geographical things are anywhere. They're just on flat ground after that point, and it's so Matthew McConaughey can save himself. If they'd have kept the pit, then he's fucked.
Well, I don't remember it actually falling literally down the pit, but that was just my viewing of it.
I don't see why he wouldn't have.
Yeah, they didn't necessarily show it. But again, I get what Alec was saying. If Man's character was someone who made sense, I would have a problem with it as well. But because his character didn't make any sense,
Yeah.
I actually have no real problem with.
Yeah,
My problem's less.
it's a psycho.
The criticism's not with the character; it's with the massive change in location that they try and pass off as not happening.
It's weird that I did not notice that after like watching it like 5 times. It's just that it just did not occur to me.
And they
But-
did it, but
Yeah.
also Nolan is known for that in it. He's one of the best directors at covering like plot holes or editing kind of strangeness to most audience goers. Not I'm not saying Not to anyone
I was
who's
going
paying
to say
attention,
he's
but
he's met his match. Yeah, if you are paying attention, he has said you don't get the film. You know, if you just sit there and go like that and you just absorb it, you've got the film. Good going,
You know,
Chad.
he's talking
But
about
if you sit
Tenet, not
if you
Interstellar.
sit there if you sit there and you go, why are you trying to colonize a planet next to a black hole? He's like, you don't get it. You don't get it. You're meant to just experience it emotionally. Yeah. Shit, Lord.
but yeah. Um,
You know, but I think what's
Anyway,
really interesting about it is that each
Okay.
character kind of like has a certain different like viewpoint of like the whole film itself. Because I think what's interesting about you know, John Lithgow's character Donald, he kind of represents our generation because he's obviously of that age that he's gone through the world we're living in now. He's seen how things were and how things have become. And so he represents us because of just the way the world is going, and he can kind of like root the audience in, kind of like seeing how the world has progressed and gone down the shitter, as you might say. So I thought that was a great contrast to someone like Cooper, who's kind of like, well, they mentioned he's like either born too late or he's born too soon. Kind of, they said it better than I am. But I thought that was a good metaphor for Cooper because he kind of like he's a man out of time, literal sense and metaphorical sense. Um, so each of the characters, kind of like even Dr. Brand, has her own like thoughts and opinions of how the human race should be and how it should go, and because her belief, like Cooper, is the hope of survival of the human race, and basically contrast her to her father, which is even more interesting because it's like Michael Caine's Dr. Brand. His viewpoint compared to Cooper, he just sees humanity as a species to preserve. He doesn't really care about the here and now, the people. Like he doesn't care about the people saving. He wants to care about the just humanity as a species. And his viewpoint is like no one would work as hard as they would if they knew humanity was doomed. And so his lie kind of makes sense to a degree because you can understand like these people probably won't volunteer to be on this mission if they knew deep down that humanity on planet Earth was literally we're not doing it for them. We're just doing this population bomb on some random world. We're not saving anyone behind. And you know, if he admitted that to Cooper, he would never have gone on the mission from the start. So that lie was integral for Cooper to kind of like coming on board. And from that,
Yeah,
I understand Murph's viewpoint of him.
he was willing
I'll
to
agree
be
with
the bad guy to save humankind,
Hmm.
which is which makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I,
oh, go on.
oh, one last thing about Murph, I'd say. Murph, I'll mention her name
Murph.
one more time.
Where's Murph? Who's
But
Murph?
you can
Yeah.
understand her like being so resentful and angry of him leaving. Not only because when she was a kid, but then she finds out about from Michael Caine's Doctor Man being like, oh, Plan A was a load of bullshit. It was Plan B from the start. And once Murph finds that out, she's really lost hope in her father. And you can see why she's just like all her worst fears from her childhood has just completely come to the forefront once again. And she knows she'd be like, oh, wait, my father left me knowing that he'd never return and humanity would never survive in the way we think it will. And all he was doing is just like setting up a camp on another planet. And you can understand Murph being like so resentful and angry about her father and being completely heartbroken from that. And it's just would no wonder it broke her. And it's just yeah, it's just such a horrible thing for a parent on a daughter coming to terms with, because being rejected by your own parent is probably one of the worst things you could experience in a sense. So
And then she gets home and she realizes that her nephew's called Coop Cooper, and she just breaks down in tears and goes like, "What the?
Yeah, well,
What's the
fact,
fucking
it was called Cooper Cooper.
Coop Cooper?" Thanks for that, Emmanuel. I didn't fuck on that at all.
Or Coops.
That just sounds like Gary Neville's dad, doesn't it? Neville.
Neville, your face is a mess. Neville, what's under your dress?
Is there love on Mars? You might say. There we go. It all comes around full circle, doesn't it? Rocket Man.
I was while I was watching this, I was kind of like mentally comparing it to The Martian, because I think they've both got like quite similar purposes in that it's like it's a story in space and it's like this big interstellar thing, but really like the point of it is somebody who has a need to go and explore and now has to survive with his decision. And yeah, I don't know. I think what I appreciate about The Martian, which I think is where Interstellar sort of lost a bit of momentum for me, is that The Martian is a very simple story. And it doesn't ever pretend to be anything but a simple story. It's just it happens to be on Mars. Whereas I think Interstellar, there's so many points where it's like you don't have to make it this huge like sort of you don't have to go beyond the bounds of this being a personal story about a bloke and his daughter and him leaving his family behind and all that kind of stuff. I think Interstellar tries to like overstep its mark a bit too much, which I think The Martian was very good at staying within its boundaries.
Agreed.
Cool.
Interesting.
Are we gonna?
Before we do further things, I just want to say to you guys, did you know that this film originated as a Steven Spielberg film?
That doesn't surprise me.
He basically pitched it originally, I think, for Paramount, and he couldn't figure out what to do with it. And Jonathan Nolan pitched it to Christopher Nolan, his brother, and it was like, hang on, I think this would be something you'd be able to do. And as far as I know, the first act is mostly the same to what the original draft Spielberg was involved with. I don't know if he wrote it himself, but he heavily was involved in the original draft. And the first draft, basically, of Cooper and Murph on the farm, that was the most. That part of the film is the most similar to the Spielberg's part of the story. It's only when they go into interstellar space that's when Nolan decides to really change it up. But that part of the story about a father and a daughter and an astronaut going into space for this mission to save the human race, that was the Spielberg part.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Like it feels very like Spielbergy. I think to me it came across as Christopher Nolan trying to do a mix of Close Encounters and 2001.
Very much. It's kind of like in between. To me, it's like in between 2001 and Contact, as well.
Oh, okay.
Just how of like discovering another species. Well, obviously in Contact, it's about extraterrestrial life, like Close Encounters. It's like it's probably all four of those things. And because 2001's like all about this journey and discovery, and it's quite a cold film. And Close Encounters is all about the emotional impact, and so is Contact as well. So instead, it's kind of like right in the middle. It's kind of got a bit of both. It's got its feet in those two sides of filmmaking, of being a bit cold and very like scientific and straight to the point, and also being very ethereal and very emotional and very like driven by like what the human heart would choose rather than the human brain. So it's kind of like it takes liberties of both, and I think Nolan himself would say that he was influenced by 2001, especially for that reason. And I think and Contact as well, because Matthew McConaughey was in that too, actually.
I forget he was in that.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, and that's like even like we mentioned earlier about Arrival, with the way it uses time as a concept, like time as this closed loop, and beings in Arrival, the aliens in that, were experiencing time literally all at once, all in one go. And this is the theme kind of Interstellar is trying to do. It's that time is happening all at once for the people in the fifth dimension. They experience it in a completely different way than we are. So yeah, there's a bit of a rival in this too. It's got all those films together.
Yeah, and even to add to that, like they even put a reference to 2001 in the film, because like the wormhole placed near Saturn is like 2001 Space Odyssey, because originally um the what was it in the film they had something near Jupiter. Was it like part of the that was a part of the movie was meant to take place near Saturn, but it took place near Jupiter because they couldn't technically do Saturn's rings.
Ah,
Mm,
was
interesting.
it the space station? I can't remember unless that was outside Earth. I can't remember now.
Yeah, but in this film, obviously, you have not just a wormhole, but the space station is like next to Saturn. And that was like a reference to 2001, which is cool.
Mm.
Um, there's two random things. One, I like how a lot of the tech techniques and how this was kind of filmed. Again, reminds me of Sunshine. Um, and also The Mandalorian.
Oh fuck me, Jesus
Uh,
Christ!
the
Alex's
sun.
favourite.
You're gonna piss him off even more.
I know I did it on purpose. Uh,
It
Oh no,
also
I feel
reminded
I feel
me
pretty
of
good now.
Loki.
what'd you say, Ben?
I said it. Oh, imagine if it reminded you of Loki as well.
Oh man. Oh,
That would be all
It wasn't that shit.
in the technical aspect of how like they're combining real effects with CGI to make it seem even better and more believable, and also similar to what they do not just with the Mandalorian and other ones. Mandalorian is just one that's famous for it at the moment as well. About how they will they have like they make like partially real sets, but then have the screen projected on the like behind them and all these cameras tracking them from different angles. So then you don't get that green screen because do you guys know what I'm talking about? What the technology I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Because bad at explaining it, but for like yeah, anyone who doesn't, they basic it's like taking an old school technique of putting playing like the background on one of those screens on like the car that was going like this. But
Yeah,
you know,
it's back projection, but with proper like 4K projectors.
yeah. And they have like four different cameras which are all capturing a separate frame every single second, capturing it like something like 240 frames per
Yeah.
second. So really cool tech how it all works. And the Mandalorian use that a lot. Um, and it really helps not get that like green screen effect. Make it cheaper for CGI as well, but also make it more believable and more realistic in terms of life in actual like where they are. But anyway, technically, I liked a lot of how the film was done, and he did use even more IMAX in this than he did like previously. I mean, it probably was much safer in this film compared to The Dark Knight.
Hmm.
To be honest, he
Yeah,
did.
on the back of cars and stuff like that.
Um, but I really like that. And on a random note, and I don't know if this can transition into like favorite scenes. It's not necessarily a favorite scene or whatnot, but like kind of like a moment I really liked. It kind of reminds me of what Rob was saying. It probably wasn't meant to make you laugh. I was like, was it meant to make me laugh? I don't know. But when they come back up from Miller's planet, he's just like, I've been waiting for years. And I was just like, you've been wanting to say that, haven't you? You've been waiting. I could imagine. He's been like, oh, when they come back, how should I do it? And actually, you know what? I'm gonna say this. But the way it comes across, he's been trying not to lose it. He's not someone who's good at isolation. He also wasn't really great, again, B team. He also wasn't great at the whole space thing, but he was necessary for it. And he's the guy who gets left for like 20 whatever years by himself. He's just like, I've been waiting. Like, oh, poor
Yeah,
guy.
fair. Yeah,
Wanted to say that for 20 years. It's okay.
yeah, poor guy.
You got
He's probably just got up and rehearsed it like several times. And oh, I'll rehearse it again like in 5 or more years. I'll go to sleep. I'll rehearse it again. Maybe they're up. Oh no, I'll do another take.
oh man.
I fell for him. Yeah. Other favorite scenes then? Well, I'll do mine, I suppose. I suppose mine's probably one of the most emotional scenes. It's like when I first saw this film. Obviously, it's become a meme now with Cooper like reacting so like intensely, crying his eyes out when he sees the playback of the videos from 20 years of his child, both of his children's like messages, and it's just like it's everything like every video he has. It's the future he could have had, but it's also the memories he never experienced, and it's kind of like illustrates all the real cost of the mistake he had by going on to the Miller's planet from the start, and it's
Mm.
just all this emotion just like channeling into him, and Matthew McConaughey just like brings everything to kind of like he's really going through it. It's probably one of his best acting performances. Well, the whole film is, I think, just the way he literally bawls his eyes out. But it isn't just like crying constantly because he's just good. He's subtly reacting to everything he sees. So it's one of those things is that how could you put yourself in, if you put yourself in his shoes and you've been an astronaut and you come back and see everything in these video files, what you've missed in 20 years of your children's life, just seeing that in just little snippets will just break you as a person. And yeah, it's such a fascinating scene, and it just shows you everything. It makes the film worth it, in my opinion. Like, if he didn't have a moment like that, I don't think the film probably would have worked as well for me, because it had that like grounding of emotion and the family connection that I feel that it really needed to like anchor it into making it very not only just empathetic for Cooper's character, but the mission and everything that humanity would have to go through to ensure its safety and its future. So yeah, that was my
Nice. Just to
Yeah,
add,
that
oh,
was a
sorry.
really effective scene. Just agreeing. Scene
Nice.
with where he's watching his kids grow up, like in a handful of Skype calls. Like, yeah, that is like just genuinely effective.
Mm. Just to kind of add in, like, the more I kind of read about this film, and I wish I kind of had time to read up on things before, um, like the more I just find certain things that are really kind of cool, really nice. Like even the older people who talk about the dust and everything and the farms and stuff. It's just like, yeah, that's from like an actual documentary, like the Dust Bowl. They're real people, like, and you kind
Yeah.
of included them in this, which is quite interesting. It's like they actually went through something very much like this.
Yeah, I think actually that's like, I don't know if I'd say like favorite scene, but like it's my favorite idea maybe. I think that's really cool because I've been watching Band of Brothers recently, and Band of Brothers does this really cool thing where like before each episode you get like an interview with somebody who was actually there. And so I think it's really cool because you've got all these like old guys who Like maybe their stories wouldn't have been heard by anyone else other than their families if they didn't do this kind of thing. And it's really cool that they tell their story and then you see their story, sort of like in a dramatized way. And I thought it was a really interesting thing to take that idea and put it in something like this, where the concept is kind of near future when everything's gone horribly wrong and we have to look for a new planet, but it's a human enough concept that there are real people who've been through something that they can relate to this. Yeah, I thought it was a really nice technique.
Yeah, I would like to actually more of that. That was a really cool idea that they could have had more throughout the film, I think, not just the beginning and the end, because I think it was the Ken Burns documentary on the Dust Bowl that they used those talking heads in, and then the only actress in it that wasn't a real person was obviously the older lady that plays Old Murph. So they did a good job of like weaving her in with the real
Who?
people there. Murph. So I thought that was really a really clever idea and a really great idea of filmmaking that they could have he could have done more of, because it's just like you say, it's just a real thing that's happened in real life that probably will happen again in the future, because it's just all it has to do is just kind of like change the time frame, and it's basically the same things. People just trying to survive with growing their own crops and just feeding their families, putting food on the table. That's the same thing, and every generation will have that.
Yeah.
I really like the ship. The ship is spinning out of
Endurance.
control, and Coop has to whatever, and Coop has to match the speed of the spin so that he can connect up to it. I thought that's pretty fucking cool. Won't lie, and the music was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was excellent, because it was kind of like, it wasn't all CGI. It was basically like model work for some of it, with like a backdrop that kind of span, like what Manuel was saying, with like back projection, which was the stars and the sky, obviously going haywire in the background.
I thought you was going to say which was the style at the time.
It was the style at the time, which
You know
was
what?
known style. Yes.
That was probably the coolest part of the film. But
Yeah, the
it's
docking.
also ironic that that's Alex's favourite scene, since it's probably the least logical part of the film.
Oh, the docking.
Wait, what?
I mean, there wasn't an abundance of logic anyway.
Wait, why is that the least logical bit?
Yeah.
Well, you think of how fast it's spinning.
But I think if
Like,
you've got a robot like Tars, yeah, to
I
control.
mean, yeah, but I think that's still a stretch, even with a robot.
But
Like,
they
don't
did
get me
say,
wrong. Like, I thought that was a fantastic scene. Like, it just showed a sort of a tense Nolan scene at its best. But still, I just thought I'd pick that out, considering all the bullshit I've heard before.
I agree. I was gonna say it's one of the things that has the least chances of um possibility. Yes, it's possible, but it's more likely than not. And I guess like it's one of those things it's in the film. So you're gonna see a miracle kind of moment
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
he gets that less than 1% chance or whatever it is to
Yeah.
actually get right. And there are moments like before that in the film, I was just like, he would not be doing any of those controls manual. What does he do? Autopilot exists like there's a
No,
reason.
because
Like,
machines can't improvise. Because you can't program a fear of death. Like,
oh, I
you
don't
couldn't trust the autopilot because it's a machine.
oh, I don't mean the part where he's doing the twirling to try and think. That's a mix of both. The robot is helping as well as him. So it's the mix of both of those. I'm talking about when they first dock, when they leave Earth's atmosphere, and you see him kind of under controls a bit, like assisting and kind of stuff, and Doyle as well. And it's like none of that would be manual. Like that's all pretty automatic. You can guide it, and you watch over it. But in real life, they just kind of like pilots in an aircraft. they set the programs to do what it needs to do, and then just watch it to make sure it's doing what it's meant to do, and only take over manually in an emergency. So it's just like that's not quite accurate, but whatever.
I do think those shots, like when they're in space, they're really effective. Like there was one where they're all on the ship and like there's like a window behind them, and you can see Earth just like go past behind them, and it really reminded me of the first time that I played Mass Effect 2, because there's a bit where you can go to Earth's moon. And I vividly remember it. Like I was on Earth's moon and I was like, man, this is awesome. And then I turned around and saw Earth in the distance and I was like, oh shit, I feel really uneasy now. And this did the exact same thing.
Yeah, because it was just like a real picture of Earth. It wasn't a CGI picture that was generated by a computer. But I think that's what's clever about it. They just put a projection of the Earth spinning backwards through the window.
Yeah,
And
it made me so uneasy because it was just like, I don't know. Like, do you ever have like the realization that like everything that you know is very like delicately balanced?
yeah,
It's like when you see it on screen, it's like, oh shit.
not just deja vu. Yeah.
I mean, I think the scene that made me feel the most like whoa was the wave scene. I was just like, oh man, this is gonna be crazy. And then when they get on the other top and they're about to go down, it's like, this is gonna be the biggest wave of your life. And it's like I was laughing because it's what like many people do, and I probably do the same thing. This is like Matthew McConaughey, he doesn't need to yell, but of course.
Yeah.
It's like
It's the gift.
it's
I'll
very
put that gift in the chat.
huh?
I'll put that gift in the chat because it's too good.
Oh, yeah. Like imagine you're however many crazy tall built and you just hit the button and you're just like, oh no, oh no.
Ben, we can just hear you typing, mate.
Oh yeah.
It'll be worth it.
Rob,
Okay.
can you tell me the sound cancellation thing?
Oh yeah, dude. If you so you know like the little arrow next to the microphone.
Yeah.
So if you turn the noise cancellation up to high, then that should cut out your keyboard and nothing else.
Oh yeah, I've got an auto. Yeah.
Yeah, I had it on a whatever as well.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So I usually just mute it in case. In
I
case. Get it?
There was another.
But
There was another one I wanted to bring up. There was another thing I wanted to bring up that I actually liked.
keep thinking of it.
Gargantua. It was Gargantua. I thought that bit was really, really cool. Like just visually.
Oh, seeing
When they're
Gargantua.
going through the wormhole.
Yeah, the design of Gargantua is really impressive.
Oh no, sorry, I meant the wormhole. The
Oh, the
wormhole.
wormhole's
Like
cool
when
too.
they're going through, I was like, that's crazy. It was
Yeah,
really cool visual.
because it isn't just a hole; it's actually a sphere, isn't it?
Yeah. Bumpy bits and all
It
the
sure is.
they put a lot of work into that. I really like that as well. Was it? Oh, you made me think of something else, but I can't remember it now. I think it's hard to pick a favorite scene, but I think one of the scenes that is probably pretty much the same as Ben's, um, similar reasons and slightly different as well. Like the scene where Matthew McConaughey is yeah looking through all these memories, and what I really liked about it as well is how music wise you have the music in that moment. The music represents the sentiment that like represents the emotions he's feeling, the sentimentality as well as the sadness and like dealing with like his consequences of his actions, like all the kind of things welling up at that same time. And then when it cuts out, the music just and then it's just
Yeah,
it's so good of a moment of having it just cut so abruptly. And I know he uses this throughout the film, but he mainly used it with sound, like before that point and after. But to use it with music in this moment, just like he was with the sound, and it's just like you're also like, wait, what? That no, that's it. It's I think it's very powerful and it's a very good way to do that scene, especially from a music point of view. And it has that kind of main theme, which I would say if you get a chance, watch covers of that as well on YouTube, like organ covers and stuff like that. It's so
I think it's one of Zimmer's best scores. I think,
yeah,
even if it isn't one of my favorites, I think it's one of his best.
yeah. I think it has such it moves emotion in a different way, and I really like that. I really like how it does that. Trying to think if there's anything else that I really like, besides the fact that the corn does grow. Um, but
Yeah, that was another thing actually. Like you know the bit where they're at the baseball game and the
mm,
granddad's like, "Oh, it's not natural to eat popcorn" and all of that. I was like, "Oh, that's
Hardcore.
a really nice way of like illustrating that corn grows and not much else." And then they kept saying it, and I was like, "Oh, got it."
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I want a corn dog. At least you didn't say that.
And I can't move for all this car. I haven't seen the brown of my poo for fucking ages.
A purely
Crackle
corn diet
corn
would be
cobs.
quite spectacular to be fair.
Is it a corn cob or is it a corn cob? Get better.
like the meal they had on that table with like Jess's family and whatnot, it's just like, yeah, it was corn everything. I was like, I hope that they're able to fortify this with a ton of just vitamins somehow, so they don't become malnourished. Like,
Oh man, you just reminded me of a terrible idea I had once. When I was at uni, I thought it was a good idea to try and like bake bread with loads of vitamins in, just so that I wouldn't have to buy any other food.
oh,
Yeah,
how did that go?
well, obviously terribly.
I mean, technically, like, you're far from what they do, especially in the well, they do that in America, but it's loaded up with sugar as well, and they do that here as well.
Yeah,
Not as much anyway. Your heart was in the right place.
yeah. It's a solid foundation, terrible execution.
Sort of like a corn-based diet.
It reminds me of something when I think it just reminds me of the idea of like trying to make something yourself. And the difference between you trying to do it and these companies and like big factories, they have all these kind of advanced stuff. And they're like, yes, here we go. Like, yeah, this is much harder than I thought it might be. That's a cool film. I think I also really like the moment um where he enters that kind of tesseract um kind of space, and he's able to look and see his daughter. And even though, like, technically or theoretically, he should know that, especially initially, what are you trying to do? Like, what are you trying to achieve? He's like just reacting emotionally because he's seeing his daughter, but he can't reach out to her. And then he's just like, stay. And then he's doing all this stuff. And it's just like, it takes him a long while to realize, wait, all of this stuff that happens, like, not only would it be pointless because he knows himself, he knows that this isn't going to work because he was there. He was there. But he then eventually realizes that oh wait, it wasn't them, it was us. And I am the one who did this particular part, but some other people helped me even help this even be
I
possible.
wouldn't have been trying to grab hold of Anne Hathaway's hand. I'd have fucking dealt with it.
I mean,
You
he's
fucked up my life, you dumb bitch. Bang.
I mean, he's very forgiving. He's
He's
very
inhumanly forgiving for that. Jesus.
to be honest. Also, I would say, they've spent a lot of time together. So even though unforgiving,
That wouldn't help with her character. I'd definitely want to punch her the more I'd spend time with her.
even though she might be unforgiving, there's an element of, okay, we are maybe some of the last people of humankind. I gotta just push past it and do what we do. And to be honest, at that time when he went to shake her hand, he's just doing it out of amazement and wonder, not because he wants to shake her hand, but he remembers that moment, and then he's also just like, "Oh, yeah, I could do
I
this.
don't want to do this.
Ah." But he
And don't
cares more
forget,
about honor.
don't forget, he goes to Edwin's planet to literally find her at the end as well. So he has a bit of a soft spot for her.
Yeah, I think he
Yeah, I
understands.
don't
Like,
know why.
I think he understands where she's coming from. He just has more maturity to 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 be like, yeah, you could be wrong, or like, yeah, I'm really pissed
Yeah,
that
people make mistakes.
you messed us up so much.
People make mistakes. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so
People make mistakes.
Also, technically, even though this is just a theory,
Fuck me.
what's wrong with that? People do.
Because she took 20 years off his fucking life because she was chasing data that was absolutely fucking useless and which was evident to anyone with half a brain looking at it. And
Yeah,
she
but
jeopardized the whole thing so she could run at a wave and not pick up any data that was of use to anybody.
I
She
guess
completely
I guess
fucked up his
people are
life for
different. It's like
absolutely no
if
reason.
someone did that
Yeah,
intentionally, that's a different
she did
thing,
do
isn't
it
it?
intentionally.
If they did it by like
She didn't do
happenstance
it
and kind of
to.
Intentionally.
She didn't do it to like fuck his life
Ran
up.
towards certain death for no reason.
yeah, there's a
And it
difference
ended up
between
with
being
his life getting
malicious.
fucked up.
There's a difference between being malicious and being like doing with your heart's in the right place.
Really
is-
stupid.
This is why you've got to calculate the human brain into it. Like, like
Yeah,
I
I
said
do
earlier.
have to consider the stupidity of the human brain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I mean,
Alex's
like-
brain right now.
I do think that's a bit that could have done with a heavy rewrite though, because it's like she put decades on their lives, nearly killed them, and it was like, I don't know what for. Like I get the whole thing of like, oh, she's a scientist, and you know, like her sort of mission is to get this data, but it's like, what's it telling her? Like at this point, like
Yeah,
it's
that was just a silly thing.
Thank
But
you.
to me, it would never cross my mind to be like, I hate this woman from my guts. I'll just never want to speak to her again.
You have to do.
I wouldn't be like that. Maybe it's just
What
that's
does
who I am as a
someone do
person.
to get a bad review from you? It's like, you made it so I can't reunite with my daughter for absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
that's their rationals. That's their mission, is to go into the unknown and do these things that you God knows have to
If
be
that was the
prepared
excuse,
for.
that's rubbish. Could you imagine you going like, you just give her that and then she goes, well, look, we're exploring the unknown. I'm just like, are you fucking real? What are you talking about?
I guess everyone's
Fucking
got a different
clown.
viewpoint on it. That's all I can say to that.
Yeah, yours is crazy.
what I would say is,
Absolutely insane.
Alex, you're the type of person who would actually be good in that type of situation.
Yeah, I'd
again,
fucking leave her ass. Be like, that's fine, go swimming, bitch.
But in saying that, that's just Alex speaking from his couch and not actually in that situation. Which
You're also speaking from your.
I would bet everything I own. I'd bet everything that you own that you'd react in a different way if you were in that situation.
I would absolutely act in a different way in that situation because I'd go, no, there's no use for this. You're just gonna get us killed. Come here, for fuck's sake.
Fucking hell.
Yeah,
Well,
well, I guess
What a
some
dumb
people
bitch.
don't have their heart in the right place.
No, some
is it-
people have their head up their fucking arse and they're gonna go and they're gonna go and run into a tidal wave because of something that's absolutely fucking no use.
Yeah,
It is
which is a
badly written in
mistake.
that. Yeah, it's.
Thank
But I'm
As
not
a-
gonna hate
There's
this
mistakes
person like
and then
they've
there's
like killed
that.
my own child because of that reason. It's like no.
They basically
He's still-
did kill her.
They
He's
didn't,
still
though.
got to
That's-
travel through space. with her.
That's
He's
like
Yeah,
be on
it
but
the
he
took them
could have done
3
it
years
for
to
Angela.
get to
20
Saturn.
minutes being added.
It
Oh,
took them 3
fucking-
years to get to
Yeah,
Saturn on
but he
like
could have still.
standard speed of the
He'd have had
endurance.
more time with her if she didn't add 20 years on for no reason.
That was the risk of going to Miller's planet anyway, which you've said, because it's close to the black hole. They shouldn't have. None of them, both of them, made that choice to go to Miller's planet.
Yes, logically.
Yeah, and so that was the choice they both made, and that was the thing. They would lose 7 extra years,
Yeah.
in addition to the 3 years they went to
It's-
Saturn.
But he didn't bank on her adding an extra 20 for no reason.
No,
What
but
I
it's, that I wouldn't hate her for the rest of my life because of that reason.
I fucking
I'd still want to
it's-
find her on Edmund's planet.
what I would add,
Fuck.
I just remembered this. So just before, I'll say the other point I was going to say afterwards. Technically, he's just as responsible for adding more time onto when they was down there. Now, technically, she
Yeah, he shouldn't
told,
have saved him.
yeah, technically he told her, she told him to leave her. She got to a realization that even though what she was doing was irrational, it was too late. And she told him to leave. She told him to leave. She realized too late though, obviously. But oh man. But
Could you imagine? Could you imagine though? You're going like, Miss, can you not? Do you mind not? And she's like, no, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do it. And then she just runs and runs and runs on the sideways right on her, and she goes, I've just realised I'm being irrational. Run!
but
Thank
like,
God you didn't write this.
That's
then.
what happens. That's what happens in the film. You like
Thank
the
God, it'd been a
scene.
very boring film if he did.
yeah, but like he
scene.
makes the choice to try and save both of them rather than only save Doyle, who actually could have easily been saved and it had more sense. But he made the decision to not listen to her and try and save both of them. And the consequence was they lost tons of years and Doyle is left on the planet. So it still would have like he probably feels as much responsible as her. And while he's pissed at her, what? So Simon, women, woman, oh woman. Anyway, because sorry, that's I'm not saying it right, but that is a word in Mandarin. But he can come in and correct. Anyway, what was I gonna say? A theory. Oh, sorry. Carry on. Because the type of person he is as well, with like 9 months or whatever kind of time it was to get to Edwin, he probably kind of dealt with that and moved past that at the end of the day. Not everyone would, but he did. Also, as a kind of theory, I didn't realize this until I was like reading up about it. Like Doyle isn't confirmed to be dead, but just unconscious. So there's a chance, a slim chance that if he manages to survive, which I don't know how he would, but if he managed to survive,
Yeah, he
the time they spent outside the planet, if they go back, it would be less than 1 day that he's actually been on the planet.
Yeah,
So
I've heard this.
yeah, so
This theory that he could still just be enough time for them to go back to get him.
yeah,
That's what makes it quite a bittersweet in the sense. Well, not really, but just in the point, like his death was like really like so pointless in that regard because they could have been saved. He could have been saved despite everything they went through.
yeah,
they
So,
could have done a lot of things really because it was a very pointless excursion in general. They could have just landed and gone, "Oh, the ship's absolutely fucked. There's a big tidal wave."
yeah, which
I
they
guess
would
we
have
got our
known
answer.
unless they went onto that planet. And that was the mistake.
Oh, so they've gone on their planet and they'd seen all the wreckage and gone,
Yeah.
"Guess she died."
But that's the thing.
Bye.
That's the whole thing of the whole point of the film is that huge mistake cost so much, and that's why that film has such an emotional impact. Because if you didn't have that, the emotional impact would not be there. You wouldn't have the huge, like, what's the word? The whole point of them going to that planet, and the fact that it was the consequence of losing so much time means so much, and that's something that Coop's character has to go through. As what the toll he has to pay.
I think the thing is, like, you could still have that payoff with a reason for it happening that was a bit more solid. Like it's like it's not that you need to get rid of all of that. Like that can still happen. It's just that the reason for it happening doesn't really make sense.
yeah, fair enough.
That's
Yeah, you can still have the relativity stuff without including we're on a black hole and Anne Hathaway's marooned us because she's a div.
Oh man,
yeah, I disagree, but that's fair enough. I think the idea
That's
of
right.
going
We all
to a
make mistakes.
planet like that is so interesting in a way because it's kind of like we've seen planets with aliens and whatnot, and this is just a water planet, and there's nothing really on there. There's no life. There's nothing really of interest, but it's still fascinating and still beautiful in its own way. And that's kind of like you could imagine something like this would work in somewhere in the universe. And I just feel that's a great idea and concept because each planet has their own identity in a sense. It's sort of it's a really interesting idea. Like, but like Rob says, it's kind of like maybe they could have been a bit more refined of how the
Smart.
reasons to get to that planet first place. Yeah, well, like we've all said, like it could have been more the climax of the film more than the first, the beginning of the second act, and that subsequent consequence could have been the ending.
something I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
I mean, he already says like this little maneuver is going to cost us 51 years, so I don't see why it's necessary to add 20 minutes on for no reason. 20 minutes, 20 years on.
That would have also been a brilliant line of dialogue.
Yeah,
If we're
20
already going to
minutes on this
take
planet is
51
20
years, then
years.
what's 20 minutes?
Yeah, but
This
We've
has
added
cost us
20
20
minutes.
minutes. Oh, that's all
Well,
right.
That's okay. For every hour we're here, it's 20 minutes on Earth. He's like, oh no, it's fine.
To say, what was the does anyone know specifically what the bet was that the lead scientist in this made with Stephen Hawking and won? I don't know.
can't remember.
Afterwards, he made some kind of bet with Stephen Hawking about like I guess like some of the astrophysics that are in this or based on this, and then won the bet. I was just like, oh, that was quite cool. But anyway, yeah, it's so. I know you guys already know. It's so annoying when you're like, oh yeah, and then you forget. Mm, whatever.
Should we announce the next pick now? Have
I
we
haven't
done
done
with-
my haven't
Oh,
done
yes.
my favourite scene yet.
Yeah, sorry, Pat. You may do your favourite.
So there's a lot that I really like, but I think the scene that sort of after he's gone through the black hole, and he's like the other side of the bookshelf, and then started doing all the Morse code stuff. I thought that was really cool, especially where it sort of led to her then working it out after she set the fire to all the corn. I that whole sequence I really liked. It would have been easy for me to say the ship spinning out of control, because that was sort of the most impressive scene. But I think the heart of the film was those two, and I feel like the fact it went full circle and it was actually him that inspired her to basically save the world. I thought that was really cool. That was my favourite scene.
Yeah, that was great. But yeah, just Simon. Did you say your favorite scene already?
I can't remember if you did. Are you there, Simon?
Yeah, I'm like half asleep.
Simon, go to fucking bed.
Well, no, I'm like listening.
Sorry, Daddy
and
Alec.
falling asleep. So I think I typed woman T because I was just being an asshole. I was like, woman. Anyways, so
Woman.
yeah, so favorite scenes. The scene near the end where when Matthew McConaughey's in his house, like in the space station, and I was like, oh, that's very reminiscent of like Gundam, and I was like, oh, that's actually very cool. That's like that's a passing favorite scene, but like definitely like the best scene is definitely the water planet when they're actually on that fucking like riding the wave or riding above the wave, because that's just like so action packed. It's kind of like a ride at Universal Studios. I was like, this would be one hell of a fucking like just like if they actually made the Christopher Nolan like
One hell of a
thing
ride.
like it'd be a log fume, wouldn't it? Isn't that the song for is? Yeah. I was like, that looks awesome. And
I'm
like the
sure that's
scene-
what it's. I'm sure that's what it says in the screenplay as well. They go like, the wave is so big it looks like a roller coaster at Alton Towers. Oh no, Universal Studio.
yeah,
No.
pretty much.
I just had a thought. If they wanted to really make that scene silly, they should have them all stand on top of their ship and ride the wave.
Oh, that would be the Fast and Furious version of that.
I think it was silly enough, really.
Oh man. What's next? Cars in space?
Yeah. You
Well,
wait.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, well, Tesla said that as well, technically.
It's all about family.
Oh man. That's funny.
Nice. So I think we can all say that Interstellar was stellar.
Yeah.
I might watch
Hey,
it again
I
before the Super Bowl.
heavily disagree. God,
That
isn't
was like
life
that.
too short?
That was like that bit in The Simpsons where Homer's like, everyone loves me, and then Marge lists all the reasons why people don't, and he's like, yeah, that doesn't sound like people love me at all.
It doesn't. No.
Yeah, no, good, yeah, good pick. Yeah.
Yeah. Well done, Pat.
Oh yeah, yeah, thanks, Pat. That was it. Just I've said it before, but I probably said it before anyway, but it reminded me once again how a common kind of enemy or antagonist Nolan puts in his film is time itself. And I tend to like how he does that, how he'll be like, okay, for now, time is the enemy. And then he makes the whole thing for a bit of film where it's like you've only got this time to do this, and it helps you feel the suspense, and you're like ah, and he loves doing that.
Yeah. I agree.
It's cool.
That is the excuse for the script. He just goes like, time was the enemy, so I couldn't write a better script.
Oh man. Oh yeah, that was it.
Ish.
That you talking reminded me about this. I don't know how it did, so don't ask me. But
You're welcome.
apparently, Christopher Nolan, when he was writing the film, like with his brother and whatnot, he did study a lot into black holes, and singularities, and a lot of the books on the shelves of Murph's bedroom, Murph, uh,
Who?
were his books from when he was studying, like the ones that were
Yeah.
on black holes and singularities were his.
Yeah.
So he knew quite a bit about it before he even got the scientists involved. Interesting enough. Okay.
Also, there's a few Stephen King books in there as well. If you saw.
Ah,
Yeah.
good.
I can't remember what. I think one was The Strand. One might have been The Shining. And I think something else as well.
Interesting.
You mean the stand?
Yeah, whatever it was. The Strand. The Stand. Yeah. All right. The one with Matthew McConaughey and.
Oh man.
I was sat here like, I've not heard of that one.
Strand. Yeah, it's a bit of a strand of a film. Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, fucking hell, Ben.
One thing I find interesting is that even though Matthew McConaughey was in that other, what was that other kind of space film or encounters film? What did you say he was in?
Contact.
Contact.
Contact, yeah. Even though he was in that, one of the main kind of things that got him even like possibly into this role was his role in Mud. I haven't seen the film, but apparently Nolan was just like, "Oh, this guy can act." That's the I think he was like, before he did Interstellar, he was just like, "That's his best performance I've seen, honestly." He's
Yeah.
like someone like him doing that type of acting and role, this everyday guy, or he's not really every day, but a more down to earth guy who is suddenly inside this really way bigger than life kind of situation. Like, just it's interesting.
Yeah, I think it was before Dallas Buyers Club came out, before he got the awards, and he was known for doing more rom-coms. And then those two films
man.
came out, and then it was like Interstellar. Yeah, okay.
I forgot about Dallas Buyers Club. What a film.
Dallas Buyers Club.
I haven't seen that, I don't think. Yeah, it's quite a few. Still, I wonder if it's on my list.
I went to see the cinema see it in the cinema because of the buzz it got, and I'd recommend it.
Nice.
Hell, I might pick it one day. You never know.
What's that
It's
film?
as good as this one.
What's
Nah,
that?
it's not as good as this.
What's
Oh
that?
wow, it's not as good as this.
Um, what's that film app that you can also rate films on that you patent? I feel like everyone's on.
Letterboxd.
Yeah, thank you, Letterbox. It's been so long since I've been on the app, I forgot its name.
So, Emmanuel, what's your pick?
So,
I knew this was going to happen. I knew it. I
What?
knew it.
what
It's your pick.
about that? I'm just kidding. Dallas Buyers Club. So I'm just adding this to my.
I thought you had to pick Dallas Buyers
I,
Club.
don't,
It's like, oh fuck.
I mean, if you just picked that just off the back of that conversation.
I haven't seen that film.
Yeah, I picked this film mere minutes ago.
All right.
Oh no, already on my list. Okay, cool. Anyway, I don't know why Dallas Buyers Club reminded me of No Country for Old Men, but whatever.
And the pick
Oh,
is
another great film.
No Country for Old Men.
So I'm gonna tell you about the film I almost picked and didn't pick before the film that I actually am picking. Um,
Excellent.
one of the reasons is I think, Simon, you might find this film interesting. Rob, you might actually really appreciate it, and Alec, with some kind of background and um a background and context to it, you might also find it interesting, but also full of not contrivances, but why.
He's gonna hate it.
Um, Otherwise, I thought it might be very boring, but also quite niche. So the film I was gonna pick, and this I actually watched most of it for once because I was so unsure about it, was I'm Not Madame Bovary. Um, okay, I thought you might have heard of it, Rob, but maybe not.
No, I have heard of it. I'm just, yeah, it's the first time I've ever heard anyone mention it.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know.
and not to say too much about it, but basically, it's a really well made, beautifully made, interestingly shot, um, Chinese, um, Chinese kind of political commentary, and over kind of overarching, they make it in a way so it seems to toe the line, but all the kind of the subversive kind of notes and kind of messages throughout it is cussing the Chinese government and bureaucracy and how they do things and how many problems there are within it. But they cover it with this whole kind of, oh yeah, this happens in a year, but a lot of kind of this kind of messed up stuff happens and whatnot. So it they did it in a way that it was able to get released.
If
And you
it's
got
the film that I think it is, could you send me a poster or like a picture of it? Because I
it's got
think
a
I know
Chinese actress in it, and a famous director, Chinese
if
director.
it's the one, send me a poster of it. Because if it's the film I think it is, then I was gonna say that's actually a very interesting film, but I can't quite remember on the top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll send the link in the chat. Yeah, that'll be fine, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll send the link in the chat in case anyone is interested. But it is one of those films where unless you understand enough context, enough of the culture, and you're watching for those small kind of cues and the subversive messages, it's not really like interesting. You can miss a lot, and it's like, oh, what's this? But if you know what you're looking for, kind of thing, or you kind of have enough of the context, it's brilliantly done because everything has this kind of like double meaning to like, oh, this might look on the surface of comedy, but they're really saying this about the government, or they're really saying this, or really doing this, and it's quite interesting how they do it and weave it together. Um, but yeah, I didn't pick it because I thought it would probably be very boring for most people. And if a film you have to explain a lot of things just to get it, mm, that was another thing. It's not made for international audiences in mind. It was made really for a Chinese audience because there's a lot of things they just don't explain as well in terms of
Mm.
like certain cultural things or certain laws that would be just automatic for most people who live there or near there or have come from there. And for people outside, it's just like, what? I had to read Wikipedia to get this. So it's just like, this film has too many things. I'm not going to pick it. But yeah, I'll send it in the chat. If you're interested, go take a look. The film I'm actually going to pick, I haven't seen, um, only tiny bits, is Holy Spider.
Ooh.
Who?
Holy
Spider.
Spider.
Oh, very nice. This was at London Film Festival last year.
Nice. Did it come out 2022 originally or 2023?
I think it would. Yeah, it would have been 22. Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, I didn't get to see it.
Oh,
Before you all log off, I need nominations. So, Simon, do you want to go first since you need to go to bed?
Oh fuck. Let's.
You've got Shawshank. You got Shawshank, Five Devils, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Interstellar, and Cool Runnings.
Man, what a
Shit. Give it to Cool Runnings for me, please.
Okay. Emmanuel.
oh, that's the hard one.
So
I
obviously
think
for you, replace Cool Runnings with the 2 anime.
no.
Fucking mean, aren't you?
It's the Yuk before me.
Maybe if
Uh,
the Ghibli one, maybe. Sorry. I think I have to do Shawshank Redemption just because, yeah, Shawshank Redemption. It just hits really hard.
The Shank.
and Rob.
I'm gonna give it to every you I've loved before
Every Yuk I've looked before. Yeah.
because I really appreciated the rationale behind picking them.
Yay.
Nice.
And for you, I've loved before. So that was the slower one. That was the blue one.
Yeah, that's the blue one. The blue movie, please.
Bob loves the blue movie. No denial there either.
Oh, man.
All right. I actually probably should go to sleep now. All right. I'm going to head off first.
You should have gone to fucking bed
It's
ages
pretty
ago.
late.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but the
even for us.
but the
Let alone you.
conversation was too interesting. I was just listening to it. I was like, oh, I want to talk, but I'm too sleepy. Anyways, I'll actually go to sleep now. All right, night, guys.
All right, man.
No,
Good
Good
night,
night,
man.
so.
Good night.
All right.
Good night. Yeah, I'm gonna head off now too. I think I need to pee more than anything else.
Yeah, I'm gonna head off.
Yeah,
Sweet.
it was a good
See
one.
you
Good
guys in
night,
a little
guys.
bit.
See you next week.